In this video, we are going to build this photography portfolio website together, only with the free version of Elementor and the free version of WordPress. This website contains a top section which you can use for an image, a video background if you want, or even a slideshow. Then it continues with a services section with cool hover animations. Then there is an about section with a little autograph and also a hover animation for your profile picture. And then it continues with a portfolio section which you can use for photos or for videos. And then it scrolls into the pricing section, which you of course can adjust however you like. And then at the bottom, we have reviews which animate in, and a very simple footer with some contact animation and some social media. And like I said, this whole website is built with a free version of Elementor. And of course that comes with some limitations. For example, we cannot put a menu here at the top, but this is a one-page website. You don't really need a menu. And for example, you can also not create a contact form here at the bottom, but I have used another free tool to create a book a call link where people can simply click and then book a call with you. So you don't need a contact form as well. So then you might say, why are you even using the free version? Because all of your videos are with the pro version. And yes, that's true. I use the pro version all the time. But not everybody has the money to already start with pro. Sometimes you just want to start with something simple and then expand afterwards. And it's already so cool what I was able to do with the free version. It was a real challenge for me. So then, for who is this video? Well, this video is for two types of people. The first group of people is obviously people that want a photography portfolio like this, because this video will probably reach new viewers. And for those people, it's perfect because it's beginner friendly. And the second group is people that want to learn Elementor but don't really have a project to do that with. So I think this is a great project to practice Elementor because we're going to use quite some tools in order to achieve this, but it's not too complex. And don't get me wrong, we're not going to build it in a crappy way. We're going to spend some time to properly set this up. So this is not just one of these projects where you're just going to import a template and then change a few things. No, this is a handmade proper design. I made this design myself in Figma before I build it to make sure all of the details are there. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to teach you all of this, that we were able to do this with free software, and only for the people that actually want to publish this website live. Those are the people that have to pay a few dollars per month, but that's the same on every single platform in the world. WordPress is actually the cheapest, probably. And then with the very popular Elementor on top of it, you have a great combination. I will provide you with all of the images that I use, so if you don't have images yet, you can just use my images. So I hope you have some time to follow this fun project with me, and then let's just get started. In order to work as organized as possible in this mini course, I have created a page with all of the resources, the steps, and a little bit of code here at the bottom that we're going to use for the typography. So I recommend you to open this page so that you have all of the steps and the code available that we're going to use. And so it's the first link in the video description. Okay, so now that we're all on the same page, we can start with step number 1, setting up WordPress and Elementor. This step has two options. The first one is for the people that want to have their website live. So if you're serious about getting your photography or videography portfolio live after this video, then do the hosting video. You can skip to this part in the video to see how you can install WordPress via that way. But for everyone else that just wants an exercise project in Elementor, you just want to learn Elementor, maybe you just want a portfolio item, then you should use InstaWP. This is kind of like a fake website. It's not even live. It's also temporary. You can download it and then later upload it to a real hosting provider like Hostinger. So you're not wasting the time you're investing. You can simply download it. But with the Hostinger option, your website is live straight away. I'm going to start with this one. And again, skip to this part in the video if you want your actual website to be live. Okay, we're going to start with InstaWP. Let's click on the first link. And then we go to their website. It is basically a super easy platform to install WordPress temporary, and then you can mess around in WordPress and do whatever you want. They have a free plan though, even though on their pricing page right now, it doesn't look like it, but you can just click on get started right now, and then you can make your account. So let's sign up with email. Okay, I just get an email like this. Let's click on it. And there we go. It's trying to upgrade me to the pro version, but you don't have to do that. You can just click on upgrade later. And there we go. We're now in the free version where we can have 3 staging websites. Pretty cool. Okay, so how do we install WordPress? It's super easy. Just click on here, create your first website. The WordPress version is automatically on the latest one. And as it says over here, your site will be deleted in 7 days. So you have to make sure that you download it within 7 days. Otherwise, you will lose your work. But yeah, 7 days is more than enough to mess around with this project. We're literally done in 1 or 2 hours with this project. And then you can download it. So there's nothing here you should do. Just click next. You can install all kinds of plugins already, but we also don't need to do that. Just click on create the site. And it's loading right now, and it will probably take a few seconds. Yes, literally there it is. I didn't even cut that in the video. And you just have a magic login link. And here we go. We are now inside of WordPress. If we click continue to the site, as it says over here, did you see that? It's not intended for live traffic, but that's totally fine. And we're now inside of WordPress. How easy was that, guys? I love InstaWP. It's so easy to do. And there are other options on the market, but I just love InstaWP. It's such a beautiful and simple platform. I have actually the paid version of this one, but now I just made a new account for this tutorial. Okay, so now we're in WordPress. Now we can get started installing things. And now I'm going to show the option on how to install WordPress via Hostinger for people that actually want to publish their website. So for the people that just did the InstaWP option, skip to this part in the video. And if you want your website live, then click on the Hostinger link. So if you go to this page, you will actually see my face over here, and you can scroll down and see the different packages. And the plans right here are the 3 plans that Hostinger right now promotes. It's always around a few dollars per month. So again, we're using free software inside of WordPress, but if you want to have your website live, you have to pay something. This is the same on every single platform, and this is actually one of the cheapest, if not the cheapest option to get your website live in a proper way. And that's what's one of my big motivations to make this video, not just beginner friendly, but also people on a budget. So obviously the most budget option is the premium plan over here. And there are lots of things here which you don't have to understand for now. But I just want to say one thing. If you care about speed more, then you should go to the bigger plan. I am personally on the cloud plan. This one is really fast. This one is a little bit faster than this one. They're all pretty decent. But with these 2 plans, you're sharing your plan with other people on the server. And with this one, it's more like an isolated environment. So yeah, you just get more stable speed right here. So if you care about speed, then pay the bigger plan. If you don't care that much, it's just a small portfolio, it doesn't get a lot of visits, then the premium plan is totally fine. It says over here 100 websites. You can run 100 websites on this. I would just recommend to run 1 website on it so that it doesn't get too overcrowded. But it is possible to even run multiple websites on this. You also get a free domain, which is great. I love it that they now put this in the package, because I don't think that hasn't been here all along. So that means that you don't have to pay separately for domain. You just have to pay for the hosting. It's so convenient. Let's just click on order. And here you can choose the periods. But here you have to keep one thing in mind. The renewal plan is always higher than the monthly plan you see in the beginning. This is the same with all hosting companies that I've seen in my life. They always give you a good deal for the first year, 2 years, or even 4 years as Hostinger, so that's great. But after that, it becomes a little bit more expensive. So if you would pay for 12 months, because maybe you don't want to take a lot of risk, you just want to check this out, then the renewal price will be 11 instead of the 8, as you see. So if you want the best bang for your buck, then you should choose the 48 month, but then you have to pay 119 now. Actually, I do have a discount code for you. If you go into here, coupon code, and you type in Living with Pixels, which is my website name over here. Okay, so if you click on apply, then you will get even 10% off extra. So now for 4 years, it's only $108. That is huge. That's like $27 a year for your website to be live, which is great. For now, this is for me just a test project. But if you're not so sure if you like all of this, then just pick the 12 month. You only pay like $32 for the first year. Free domain, and nothing really can go wrong for this amount, and then you just have your website for 1 year. I think this is an absolute great deal. This is one of the reasons why I love Hostinger. I'm gonna continue and just purchase this package. Okay, so make sure to create an account with Google or just with your email, and then you have to fill in your billing info. Okay, I put my stuff in there, and let's continue. And now there are multiple ways to pay. These payment methods can change depending on the location you're in right now. Right now, I am in Bali, Indonesia, and therefore I see Alipay, probably, because I don't see that in my own country. I'm from the Netherlands. So just use an option that's convenient for you. Okay, I paid my $32, and now I'm going to be redirected to Hostinger. And here they will ask you a few questions to help you set up your website. It's good to walk through these instead of skip it, because we also need to choose our domain name here. So we are creating a portfolio for ourselves. So we're just going to click on this one. We want to create a new website. We want to use WordPress because we want to use Elementor. So this is not your WordPress.com account. This is just a login for this specific website. That's how it works. It's not your Hostinger login and not your main WordPress login. It's just for this website, okay? So they automatically already generate a password for you, which you can use. It's actually very short. I want to add some characters here. And then you can choose a theme, but we have our own design. We're not just going to use a template. So we're just going to click on choose a theme instead. I know that's a little bit confusing. And we're going to use an Elementor one. You can leave it on the default, totally fine. Just click next. And then it already wants you to install all kinds of plugins. We don't need to do that. We want to start with a clean site. So let's just click on install WordPress. And now we have to choose a domain name. For me, this is just a tutorial, so I came up with something very lame. Typography.portfolio.reno.com. But this is the moment where you need to think about your name. If you're absolutely not sure, then I would highly recommend to just pick your first and your last name. You can always change the content on the page, but your first and your last name.com is something you want to own. You don't want anybody else to own that domain name. So that's something that you can do. But if you don't like that, then just put your first name and then, for example, portfolio.com. That also works. But I have to say though, changing your domain name is not super easy. It is possible, but not super easy. And so pick a name that you like. So for me, it's photographyportfolioreno.com. You can, by the way, also pick other ones if you don't like .com, but just make sure at the right here to look at the renewal price. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to pick .com. And now we should be almost ready. Maybe you will get this pop-up, register your domain. You have to fill out some data, but it automatically generates the data that you already put in. And make sure to actually use real data here, because providing incorrect details may lead to domain suspension, and then you don't have your website anymore. And of course, you don't want that. Okay, now it seems to be done. Okay, that took 10 seconds, which is totally fine. And here you have to choose which city you are closest to. They have different data centers. So I am from the Netherlands, so I'm just going to pick Germany because that's the closest one. And they say it's 100% renewable energy. That's pretty cool. This is just to make sure that your website is as fast as possible so that your audience is as close to the server where it is. So Hostinger has multiple places in the world where they have these big data centers. It's pretty cool. That also shows you that it's a proper big company. It's not some kind of crappy beginner that just has a few servers somewhere. Hostinger is actually huge, and this is proof of that. Okay, now we're finally installing WordPress. It was not too hard, but you always have to go through some steps because you're actually registering a website and a domain name. This is an official thing. It may be a little bit scary, but I think it's pretty cool. You're making a big step with this one. Okay, and now we are inside of WordPress. What Hostinger does really great right now, which was not the case in the past, is that they automatically install WordPress for you and they direct you to the dashboard. I didn't have to do anything. Like normally you would have to install it and then select your domain. So I applaud Hostinger for this setup. That was super easy to do. We're now inside of WordPress. So we now have two WordPress options. So we have this one for people that want to have their website live, and we have the Inside WP version over here, which is just for temporary domains. Okay, let's first clean up the WordPress a little bit so that we start off with something clean. On the hosting and setup, you already have tutorials, which of course you can watch, but hey, you're here with me, so let's just continue. But here it will say one last thing that you have to do, and that is connect your domain. So right now, we're not actually on the live website yet. We're on a subdomain. It says here Photography Portfolio Reno and then .previewdomain.com. So it's actually not on the actual domain yet. So let's just connect that so that it can just do that thing in the background while we are developing over here. I'm going to click on Connect to HPanel. And it says over here that I need to verify my email. That's one step that I have to do. I see that hosting has sent me 3 emails. Verify your email address and verify your email address to use your domain. Let's just quickly both verify them because we know it's us. Okay, that was one. And now go back to the other email and also verify that for the domain. Okay, it has been successfully verified. You can now close this page. Perfect. So now let's go back to this tab and then refresh it. And now it should work. Let's see if it works by clicking on our domain name. And yes, there is a website actually, a very basic one. That's great. And we can now log in via the WordPress admin button. And that then will redirect us back into WordPress. Yes, and now we are on the domain. We didn't have to wait hours for this. With some hosting providers, that's the case, but it already works. It's so easy. All of this we don't have to do. Let's just clean this up. I want to start completely clean. They already install some plugins. I would not recommend any of these plugins when you're developing. You can always install them later. So just select them, go over here, click on delete and click on apply. And exactly the same for the people that have used InstaWP. I also want to make sure that we're all seeing the same thing. Oh, InstaWP doesn't have plugins installed because I didn't select that. But if it's here, just delete it and just make sure to update WordPress to the latest version by clicking over here and then update to WordPress. I'm not sure why they don't install the latest version of WordPress by default, but whatever. Let's go back on the dashboard. And inside of Hostinger, I can also see an update over here. Oh, and that's to the theme. We're going to change that anyways. Okay, so now we have a very similar situation for the people that have used Hostinger and for the people that have used InstaWP. It all looks exactly the same if you close this window. We're now on a pretty similar setup. So WordPress is installed. That means that we're almost done with step number 1. We just need to install Elementor right now. And to make sure that we're all having the same version of Elementor, I would recommend to download Elementor via this link. So if you go over here and you will scroll down, and then at some point you will see a download button over here. Just download that to your computer, then go back to your WordPress, click on plugins, and here we can install Elementor. Oh wait, why did it not delete our plugins? Oh my god, I forgot to first deactivate them. How can this even ever happen? I'm using WordPress for so long and I still sometimes forget this. You first have to select them, then deactivate, and then you can delete them. Yeah, WordPress doesn't say that. WordPress is a little bit an old of a system. It's not the most user-friendly, but yeah, it works. Okay, now I have deleted my plugins. I am sorry for that. Just click on upload the plugin and then you can simply drag it from your downloads folder on this button or just click choose the file and then find it on your computer and install it now. I am now on 3.27. It's probably the case that you're on a newer version, but I just want to make sure that you're not on an older version. And that's why if you download it via this page, you're 100% sure that you have the latest version. So yeah, just activate the plugin. And then they will ask you all kinds of questions, which we don't need to do. We can just click on skip or actually on the X over here. We just want to go back to WordPress. And there's one more thing that we need to do. Go over here to themes. Make sure to add a new theme because I always want to work with the Hello Elementor one. It's already over here. But if you don't see it, then just go over here and search for Hello. Oh, now it's down here. That's so weird. Just click on install, activate. And now it's good practice to disable these other themes. So you don't have to worry about what this is. This is default WordPress stuff. We're not going to use this. So I'm just going to delete these 3 themes that are automatically installed over here, and there we go. I only want to see Hello Elementor installed because that is a clean theme. We're going to do everything with the Elementor plugin, so we don't need any of these theme features. So that's it. That's what we did. We installed the Elementor plugin, we installed the Elementor Hello theme, and we deleted all of our plugins. And of course, we installed WordPress. That was step number 1, setting up. Not the most fun step, but absolutely essential. And now we can dive into Elementor by going to step number 2. For the typography, we're going to set this up inside of Elementor. So let's just go to our dashboard. We have Elementor already installed. We can see it over here. So we're just going to create our first page, actually the only page, because this project only has 1 page. There's already a privacy policy. You can leave it, maybe you will need it later. Just add a new page over here. You can click this one away and just call it home. Very easy to do. And then we can simply click over here to edit with Elementor. We don't need any of the pop-ups that it shows us. We just need the page. And the first thing I always want to do is make sure I don't see the page title and I don't see the name here at the top, because we just want to start out clean. So you can do that by going to the page settings over here, then hide the title over here, and then also put the page layout on Elementor canvas. Normally with a normal website with Elementor Pro, where you also have a menu and a footer, you put it on full width, but now it's just 1 page. We just want to have something clean like this. So what do we need in terms of typography? Let's go to my Figma design, which by the way, you don't really need for this tutorial. If you want this Figma file, then let me know in the comments and I will make sure to add it to the resources over here. But all you need is the images. But we're focusing on typography right now. So what do we see? We have this big title over here, which is actually title 1. That's 96 in size. It's huge. We also use these huge ones over here because I like to use big titles in many places. It just looks so modern. And then we have these smaller ones over here, which is the title 2. Then we have the price, which is title 3. And I think we also use that here at the top over here. Yeah, that's also a title 3. So I always make sure to reuse my sizes. And then there's the smallest one, which is used in these testimonials for the names over here, and then also in the contact. And then there's one more which we use in some special places like over here. It's called subtitle. It's also used here in the schedule button, and it's used here at the top in the button. And then of course, lastly, we have the body text, the normal text. So that gives us 6 styles for this website. For most projects you have more, but this is a simple website. Okay, so let's first set up our titles to make things easy for us. So just click on a heading. It will automatically put it in a box. Very easy to do. And then we're going to go to Style. And then over here, it's automatically linked to the primary, but we only have 2 options over here. So I want to use a different feature. Just click on the pencil over here. And then it says we should use global fonts, which we're going to do. We're going to put it on the size that we want, which is 96. It's huge. The font itself is ANEC Latin. There we go. We are actually using a bold version. And the line height, so the space between the rows, already looks good over here by default. So we don't really have to change that for now. And now I want to add this font to the global font so that we can reuse it in different places, because we use this big font in different places. So I'm just calling it title 1, create. And now it has turned into this purple globe, which means that it's connected to a global font. That's how that works. So now we're going to make a duplicate of this first one by right click. And then we're going to change the settings. So we're not going to use title 1. We're going to unlink it by clicking on this one. And now we're going to make this one smaller. The second one was 64. There we go. But now we can't really see if the line height is good because we don't have enough text. So there are two options. You can add more text in here to see the line height, but an easy solution is just go to your first container and then just decrease the width to something a lot smaller, something like this. You can even put it even smaller, like on 400, to make sure that you see the spacing between the rows. This also looks great, so we don't need to change that, but we just need to make sure that we also save this one as a global one, exactly the same, title 2. Okay, we're gonna repeat that 2 more times. So again, go over here, duplicate, in here, what was the size? In Figma, it's 48, and the next one, which we need, is 24. So let's just put it in here, 48. Also looks good, the line height, so let's add it. Title 3, create, one more, which is going to be 24. And now we have the same problem again. I can make it even smaller. So let's now add a little bit of text in here. I'm just going to copy all of this. Copy Command C and then Command V, or Control if you're on Windows. And then now we can see the line height. Just always make sure to check that, because sometimes what happens is that your line height is messed up and then it looks like this, and that just doesn't look professional. Actually over here, I think it's a little bit too little. So I'm just going to edit it over here, and let's just try to use percentages. So let's use 100%. That looks almost the same. So what about 120 or 110? Huh. Yeah, I think 120 looks a little bit better for this one. So I'm just going to leave it over here and then just call it title 4. Okay, now we need 2 more, the body text and the subtitle. Let's first do that subtitle. So I'm going to make one more duplicate over here. But the subtitle is a little smaller. It's 15. It's also bold, but there's some more spacing between the letters, the characters. And what does that mean? Well, if I go over here and I would unlink it and I would put this one on 0, look at the text. See, this is the original. So we added some more text between the characters. So we're also going to do that in Elementor. So let's go in here, unlink it again. We're going to put this on 15. It actually looks really small right now. You know what? Let's just put it at 16. And then over here, the letter spacing, you can increase that. Let's see if Elementor has the same kind of values as Figma. With many features, that is the case. Here, 10%. No, it doesn't work like that for some reason. Let's try a bigger number. No, it also doesn't work like that. So let's just use our eyes in here and let's just increase it a little bit. It's also very hard to see right now if we're doing a great job because we haven't put it in capitals yet. We can also do that from here, so we don't have to put the text in actual capitals. Very easy to do. I think that looks pretty similar, don't you agree? And this text size is not gonna stay the same, so using pixels is totally fine here. The line height looks okay. So let's now also save this one as subtitle. And again, this is a little bit of preparation work, but you will see once we start working with it, that it's really good to prepare this up front so that you can easily link all of your text layers, because a website is, I don't know, 50% text layers. There's so much text. So it's just better to prepare that. Okay, one more. We're going to do the text editor, the normal text, okay? This one already has one built in, okay? So we can change this one. So we don't have to add a new one over here. It is a little bit complex, just forget it for now. Just know that for the text layer, we can just use what's already there, but we cannot change it from here. We have to go into the Manage Global Font settings, and then it will go to a new frame, and then you can click on the text. It will open it over here. The size that I use for this website is actually a little bit bigger than normal. So default is 16. That's why nothing changes when you put in that number. But I use 18 for this website. And that's because it's a big visual website. There's so much space. We can make the font a little bit bigger, make things look a little bit more modern. So that's why I use 18 for the body font over here. The line height, I use percentages. We cannot see that over here, but we will see that once we have the big text. Just trust me on this one. Just put in 160%, and then we're going to close this panel so we can see our original text. Just disable this, and now we can see our original text over here. Sometimes I hope it will work because it doesn't always work. So let's change it over here. No, now you see it doesn't work. It should change the text size over here, but I know this is good. 160 is great. So now let's go back to X. Elementor sometimes is a little bit buggy, it's a little bit annoying, so sometimes you just have to give it a refresh to just see your changes. And now you can see that this one is a little bit bigger and it's still linked to the text. So that is starting to look good. It's starting to give us some tips here, like adding your logo, adding your global fonts. Well, that's exactly what we're starting out with. So we're following the best practices already. We don't need that. So now we're almost done to start adding some things on the canvas, but we haven't set up the colors yet. It's still blue and then this gray. But what we need is like a light gray and then a white or almost white. What is it? Yeah, it's pure white. So we need these color values. Let's do that. First, let's just change the background color of this page to black or almost black. Let's see in our design what it is. Okay, it's almost black. You can also put it at black if you want to. Click over here and then we can put in the value over here. So let's just copy that color code. You can just copy the hex code or you can just select it from here. And then we're gonna add it and we're just gonna call this one dark. Okay, add that color, so now it's also connected to the global colors. And now it would be great if all of our text automatically would be white. And that is possible, but that requires us to go back into the site settings and then go into global colors. And then for the primary, just put it on pure white. Because all of the headings, so all of the titles automatically use the primary one. And for the text, it's the same story. What is the color we use in our design for our text and the gray elements? That's this color, CE, 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 okay? So we're just gonna put in that color code over here. It's a lot lighter than the original one. And there we go. Oh, that didn't work for some reason. Let's put it in again. Okay, now it works. So make sure the hashtag is always in front of it so that it works. And we can just leave the secondary and the accents for now. We don't really need it. Let's just go back and save the changes and click on the X again. So now it will be really easy to add text. First of all, when we drag in a new heading, it automatically already has the white color. And we can easily link it from here to one of our 4 sizes. So for example, this one or this one, and it already looks great. You don't have to do that for every single layer and then copy and paste because that's so much work. So this took a little bit of preparation, but it's absolutely worth it. So now we're done with the typography. We can now move on to the menu, this top one over here. It's a quite short step, so let's just jump into it. Okay, for this menu, we basically have 2 elements. It's not going to be really hard. The only thing that's going to be a little bit challenging is making it responsive, because we also need to make sure that it looks good on a tablet and a mobile. And now you're maybe thinking, yeah, okay, can we not just start with desktop and then do all of that tablet and mobile stuff after it? And the answer is yes, it's possible, but it's a lot more work. If you just do it with every single section instead of afterwards, then you don't have to copy and paste a million things. So it's just a lot more efficient to work in a prepared way, in the same way as we first prepared the typography. So now we need to have a logo and a button. So first, this logo. Let's say that you also want a photography website. Let me first just quickly show you how I made this logo. This logo is just 2 text layers. This handwritten font is called Satisfy. It's a Google font. And then this one at the bottom is the same one as we use for the text, Anec Latin. And then it has a lot of spacing between the characters, 40% in Figma. And then I just grouped these 2 and converted it into an image. And the image is already uploaded in the folder. So if you click on download the images, then it will open the folder with all of the images that we need, including the logo. It's white because it's white on white, so that's why you can't see it. Just click on the download button over here and then just click on download only, and then it will zip it up and send it to your download folder. So I've opened the file and now we can see all of the images, including the logo over here. So if you also want the logo like this, then you can easily make this in Figma, and then make sure to select both of them, group them, and then export them to a PNG. I would advise it on 2x, so it's a little bit sharper, then export it, and then you have a similar image like me. Okay, so now we can add some things over here. So we should delete some of these things. And you can add a little bit more features over here, which makes it a little bit easier. If you go to the logo and then user preferences, if you turn on quick edit options, then all of a sudden you have a duplicate button and a delete button in every single widget. That makes it a little bit easier. So yeah, we can just delete some things, but now we actually don't need this whole section. Let's just delete the whole section and start with our first one, which is going to be a flex box in a horizontal position because our menu is horizontal. Then inside of it, we will need an image like that. So you can just click on the image and it will automatically add it to the container. Then click on the plus again. And then on the right over here, we have a button. So we can just click on the button and then it will add a button here on the right. Okay, let's edit some things. First, for our image, make sure to select our image. We have not uploaded anything, so we're gonna go to our folder and just drag it in here. And then once it's done, click on select. There we go, now we have our logo. And I know that some of you will say that it's better to use SVG, which is a vector file, and I completely agree, but this file is still super small here. It's 9 kilobytes, and with SVG, some people have problems. I want to keep this tutorial beginner friendly, so let's just stick to this. And then let's check in our Figma how big our logo actually is, how wide it is. And it's 235 pixels. So let's go in here. And let's change this one to pixels and just type in the same thing, 235. So now we know that it's exactly the same size as our Figma file, which is nice. Then let's middle align the items. So click on the container, the outer container, and then align items, put them in the middle so that our button is nicely aligned. Now we want to style our button a little bit. So in our design, we have this special text that we made, and it's just an outline in white. It's a stroke with 1 pixel and 8 pixels of a rounded corner. You don't have to do that, but I like that effect. So we're going to go to style. And then over here, you can change the settings. But here I also want to say that you have global settings for all of your buttons. And for these kinds of websites, the possibilities are quite high that you're going to add more buttons in the future. So it's better to save that on a global level instead of messing around here. So let's just go to the site settings over here and then go to buttons. So this applies to all of the buttons. First of all, let's add the rounded corners. You can do that over here. If you put it on 0, there's no rounded corners. We want 8. It's a little bit more than default. That looks good. Border type, yes, we want a solid border of 1 pixel that is in the color white, which is the primary one. Okay, and now we need to delete the inside color. You can do that in background type. You would think that you can just turn it off like that, but it doesn't work like that. You have to open the color and then slide this value to the left in order to delete the color. For some reason, it doesn't preview right here, which is a little bit annoying. And let's now also add the typography. So over here in typography, we can add that little one that we made, subtitle, and that looks better. It's still not bold enough. I think I forgot to add that it's also bold. So we will do that in a minute, but this looks good. Let's click on Save the Changes. Let's go to Global Fonts again and make sure that our subtitle is bold. Oh, it already is. It doesn't really show bold. That's a little bit weird. Like I said, the site settings of Elementor are not great. They should really work on that. Probably when we click the X over here, it does look better. No, it still doesn't. Let me refresh. But okay, the boldness doesn't really apply. And you can already see this message over here that sometimes there's also styles in the theme. Yeah, this is one of these things that's a little bit annoying about WordPress. Sometimes there are multiple layers of settings, so we need to go in this menu over here and then disable the default colors. Click on Save the Changes. And let's also do that for the fonts because we're also having issues with that text inside of the button. Let's click Save the Changes. Let's go back and click on Refresh. And now, yes, now it works. You can see the text is bold now and the transparency has applied. So now we can exit from here and that looks already a lot better. The only thing is that the text color is still white. I forgot to add that. So let's go in here. Let's go back to buttons, and then the text color, we have to put it on gray. I think that's how my button is designed. Yeah, that looks pretty good. You can also leave it on white, of course, if you want. And then the last thing is the padding. In our button over here, we can see that we have 24 pixels left and right, and then 14 pixels top and bottom. So let's also do that. If you delete the padding, it will go to 0, obviously. And then we're just going to put 14 at the top, 14 at the bottom, 24 left, 24 right. And there we go. That looks great. Save the changes. Let's go back to our page. And then we're just going to push this button all the way to the right. Just push this one a little bit down so we can see it. Inside of here, just go to justify content and click on space between, and that will automatically push it to the sides of the container. Okay, great. Okay, and now we need to add some space here between the logo and the top of our canvas. And we can do that by adding some padding. Padding is the space inside of a block. Margin is outside. So margin outside, padding is inside. So if you go in your container, advanced, you see these options. You can unlink it and then you can put 50 pixels at the top, just like that. But it's better to use rem values. So we're going to go to rem, and then you can also put 50 here. But 50 is way too much, and that is because one rem is based on 16 pixels. That's a little bit too technical for now, but we know that 16 times 3 is 48, which is very close to 50. So I'm just going to put 3 rem here at the top, and that will push the menu down a little bit. Okay, I just want to say one thing. This is not how you normally create a menu with Elementor Pro. You create a different template in a different place and then you apply that to different pages. But this is just a one-page website, so we can just put the menu here on the home page. That's totally fine. It looks like we're done, but we haven't checked our tablet and mobile yet. So let's do that. First, we're going to go to tablet mode, and here you can see that there is no space left and right, which is not great. You would think that we would just add some padding here, but that's actually not a great idea because we're going to have this problem left and right for every single section that we want to make responsive, and therefore it's also better to do this in a global way. So again, we're going to go to the site settings, and then I want you to go to layout, and then over here we can see content width. So on the desktop, it is 1140 pixels. In our Figma, this design is actually based on a 75 column grid with 20 pixels of gap, which means that the total container width is 1140, which is also the default in Elementor. That's why I created this design like this, so that our design can be exactly the same in our Figma as on the final website. But the website is aligned to the edge of the 1140 grid, and each column actually has 10 pixels on the left and 10 pixels on the right spacing, and therefore we need to set the outer container to 1120 and not 1140. It's a small change, but technically that's how you should do it. But if you like a wider layout, then you can go up to a different value. These days, I sometimes use 80 pixels of column to make the website look a little bit wider. For this website, it will totally work if you make it a little bit wider. So you can do that, but for now I want to stick to my Figma design. I think it looks fine. So we're going to leave it at 1120, but then on the tablet, we can also work in pixels, but that's not a smart idea because not every tablet is the same size. So even if you would put it over here and then would resize it, then you would still have problems on smaller tablets. And therefore, on tablet and mobile, it's smarter to switch to percentages and, for example, put in 85. I think that spacing left and right looks great. And then you can switch to mobile, then go to percentages as well, and put it on 90. So now we can see a problem over here. We're going to fix that soon, but that's how you do it. And we only have tablet and mobile right now, which is not enough because what about tablet landscape? Does that look good? Probably not. So we're going to go to breakpoints and we're going to add some more breakpoints. So we have more options over here to select. I also want to add tablet landscape, and I also often add a laptop. Mobile landscape is not so relevant for now. And maybe we will check widescreen later, but I think it's going to be fine because we're working with pixels on the desktop. So let's just save the changes. And now it has to reload Elementor because it gives us more options. And there we go. Now we have more options. So let's go back to layout again. And first let's refresh because our logo is way too big and oh, it still doesn't work. That's a little bit annoying. Sometimes you just have to go back to your page and then load the site settings again to make sure it looks good. Go back to layout, and now we have more options. For example, laptop. So on desktop, we have a lot of space left and right depending on how big your screen is. On laptop, we have a little bit less, so I'm gonna put it on 85 as well. Then on tablet, 85, this one 85, and then this one 90. I think that looks decent for this website. And for the rest, these settings are good. So let's just save the changes, go back to our page, and I just want to preview if it actually works what we have done. So you can click on the preview changes over here, it will load the page, and now let's just start resizing our browser to see if its responsiveness actually works. The button should not touch the side over here, okay? And the logo on the left as well. There should always be some space left and right. Look at that. Beautiful. That looks great. But we still had that problem on mobile where the button would be under our logo. So let's go back. Let's go to mobile and then let's make our logo smaller. And then you would think that we just change the value over here, but this size is actually the size of the logo inside of the widget. If you want to change the width of the widget itself, you have to do that in advance and then width over here. I know that's a little bit complex, but just trust me, if you put this one on 50%, now it will be a bit smaller. Let's change the button text as well to contact. And now it already looks a little bit better. So now we fixed the issue. It looks good on all devices. Okay, let's go back to desktop. Let's click on publish. And now it looks like this. So what happens when somebody visits our website? Let's try that. Let's delete everything after the slash. And then we see this. And we don't see the homepage yet. Why is that? That is because we haven't set up the homepage to be the actual homepage. We just created the homepage, but we haven't set that up yet. So if you go back one step and then just click on the name over here, you will go back to the dashboard. If that doesn't work for you, then just type wp-admin after your domain name, and then you will go back to the dashboard. And then we have to go to settings and reading over here. Don't ask me why it's there, but here you can change what you want the actual homepage to be. By default, WordPress is a blogging platform, and therefore, by default, it's based on blog posts, but we don't want that. We're just going to change it to home, save the changes, and now let's click on our website again, and now it should work. It doesn't work. That's probably a temporary thing. Let's refresh, and there you can see. So now our homepage is the homepage. Great, we're still building it. So now we can move on to the next part, which is this big image and the text. So let's do that in the next step. And this section is called the hero section. And it is the section that decides whether a user is going to explore more or not. It's very important. And therefore, I think on a photography website, the photo itself should be the main center of attention. Therefore, I put it in the middle and then I gave it some identity with a quote over here, but that's of course optional. You can also just put it like that, which is also pretty cool, by the way. Doesn't look that bad, but I think a little bit of text is nice. And what's also cool is that this photo background, it overflows into the next one. Do you see that? So this photo goes to the white line and then this one is pushed up. So we need a little trick to make that happen. And also the menu is also on top. So let's see how we can do that. First, we're going to make a flexbox section. We can just put this one on vertical. And then I want to make it 100% of the height. Because on every screen, I want these cards to be visible at the bottom, just a little bit like that. Therefore, we need to work with percentages. You can do that by going to VH over here and then putting this one at 100. Now it's more than the screen because this section is still on top. But from here to here, it's 100% of the height. even if we adjust the screen, it will stay 100%. That is what VH does. It's view height, I think. So let's add a photo background in here. We're just gonna go in here and then go to style. And then over here in classic, just upload an image. The image that we need is this one. And then I recommend a photo which is a little bit darker. Here at the bottom, it doesn't have to be dark because we're going to use Elementor to fade it into the next section. But I think it should have quite a bit of darkness in order to let it fit nicely in this design. So now I'm just going to drag our image into our website and then you can select it. But if you use your own photos, then you will see over here that it's probably going to be really big. If this is more than 1 megabyte, it will slow down your website quite a bit. Of course, you want to have sharp pictures, so it's up to you. The bigger the size, probably the sharper the image is. It cannot be huge in terms of pixel size because WordPress automatically scales that down for speed reasons, but also this value should not be too high. This is like 1/3 of a megabyte, which is good for a big image like this. But if you have your own photos, then I recommend that you use some kind of image resize and a compression feature, which I linked over here. You can go over here and then drop your image in here. Let's just try it once with this image. You can drag it in here and then you can decrease the image quality and you can even resize it already in here. And this image in size is already quite good, but let's say that your image is like 5,000 pixels big, then I would recommend to put the size on 50%. So you already scale it down and then you can put the image quality a little bit lower. Don't put it too low. You can export it to JPEG. Even better is WebP, then it will be even smaller. We don't need a transparent background because there's no transparency in this image. You can start and it will automatically download it to your computer, and it made it super small, but right now the pixel size is too small. So let me just do it again. So your image size width should be around 2500, not bigger than that, because otherwise WordPress will scale it down anyways. So this image right now, it is 2800. So it has to be scaled down just a little bit. Let's see, 80%. Yeah, let's do 85%, okay? So we're going to do 85% in terms of the size. Image quality 7, WebP, let's start. And now you can see that it's 91 kilobytes. That's even better than the JPEG that I had. So let's just also put it in this folder and see if it's still sharp. Yeah, it lost a little bit of quality and detail, but it's actually not too bad. So let's just use our new WebP image. And I'm showing you this because it's so important that you keep your website fast. I mean, you should care about that. So let's see if it's still sharp. If we upload this smaller version, so 340 kilobyte, now it's 91 kilobyte and it's still under 2500 pixels. Let's select it. We need to change some of the settings here. For example, position, center, and display size, put it on cover. If you think that this is sharp enough, then yeah, you can continue. If you don't think this is sharp enough, then you should play around with the settings to make it compress less, put the image quality higher. And this is always, of course, a tricky thing with a photography website. Maybe some of you will think that this is too crappy. So yeah, it's up to you. But I just wanted to show you how you can make your website faster with this website. Okay, so that looks good. Now let's make sure our menu overlaps this image. We can do that by going over here and then put the position on fixed. And that will make sure it will stick to the top. But now it's gone, and that's because it's behind this other container. You can fix that by scrolling down and then putting the Z index on, for example, a higher number. So let's put it on 9. And now you will see that the menu overlaps and it even sticks to the top. And if you don't like that, then put it on absolute and then it will just stick over there. Okay, that looks great. But now we just need to add that fade to the next section because there's still a sharp line over here. We can do that by going to the background container, but we cannot select it anymore because we're now clicking on our menu. So now we need the layers panel. You can open that over here. It's called structure. It's just basically your layers panel. And then we don't want the top one because that's our menu. We want this one. That's our image. So let's also change the names to work organized. Double click on the text. Just call this one hero and this one just call it menu. Okay, there we go. And now we're going to go to style, scroll down, background overlay, gradients, and now just pick some crazy color over here so we can see what we're doing. Slide this one over here, pick like a blue or something. So now we can see that red is at the bottom, which is good. First of all, put the opacity at 100%. Then we're going to change the location of the blue and push it down a little bit. We don't need that much. Something like that. That looks great. Now let's put the blue back to nothing, to 0. And then let's put this one on the black of our background, which is this dark. And now you can see that it is applied. It flows into the next section. Let's turn it off and on. There we go. That looks great. Now we need to add some text. So let's go to the plus. Let's insert a heading. And now it's all the way at the top. And it's also not white for some reason. That's a little bit weird. I think that's not how it should be. So let's just refresh it. But first I just want to save the draft before I refresh it, because otherwise you can lose your progress. Yes, now we're going to reload. And then the text should be white. Otherwise it's a little bit weird. Okay, that doesn't happen for some reason. Not a problem. We're just going to go to the typography and select our big title 1. Okay, that's great. And also select our color primary. There it is. Great. Now let's align it to the bottom. So click on your hero background and then just push it to the bottom, just like that. And now you can click on your heading again from here or from here, and then just middle align it. Let's put in some text. So what is the text that we have here? Capturing moment, revealing beauty. Let's just put it in here. There we go. But it shouldn't be all the way to the bottom. So we should also add some padding here to make sure that this text is pushed up. You can do that inside of the heading widget, but maybe you want to add more items like a button. So then it's better to apply it to the hero. Go to advanced, unlink this, and now you can add something at the bottom, for example, 50 pixels. But let's work in RAM again, because that's a little bit better. And then just add, I don't know, 5 at the bottom. It's probably not enough, so let's just put 8. We can change this one later, but for now, this looks great. And now before we move on, let's check responsiveness. So let's go to our laptop. That still looks great. Let's go to our tablet in landscape. The text is quite big now. I think I want to change that. And also on this one, and absolutely on this one. So now we need to change the text size. We haven't done that. We could have done that in the beginning, but I just want to show you how it works if you don't set that up inside of the site settings. There's 2 ways to fix that. One is manual and one is with my code. I will show you both ways. Let's go back to global fonts, and then this one is title 1. We're now in laptop, so let's go to tablet landscape. Yeah, this one already looks quite big, so we can change the value over here. It was 69, but let's say that you want to go a little bit lower on tablet. You can just press the arrow key on your keyboard and just make it lower. And you can also do that for mobile. You can go over here and make it a little bit smaller, something like this. So putting these values here totally works. Let's check it out. We just need to make sure to save our progress. So let's get out of the site settings and then just publish these changes and then click on the eye again. So now if I start scaling down, you will see that at some point on tablet, boom, it goes smaller, which is fine. And then once it goes to mobile size, it will go even smaller. But it's not super smooth for every device. There's just 3 sizes right now. And of course, you can add a lot more values in here and make it a little bit smaller with every step. But the code that I provide over here makes it really easy. It will automatically scale down from big to small. So just copy what I have over here. You don't have to worry about how it works. Just make sure to copy it, then go back. Then we're going to open these site settings again, global fonts, go into here, and we're just going to delete these values. Okay, just make sure you go to desktop, and then instead of using pixels, we're just going to go into the pencil over here and just paste this value in here. So now it should work. Let's click on save the changes and let's go back to our preview and click on refresh. And now it should scale down beautifully from desktop all the way to mobile. You see how that scales beautifully, and then it goes down beautifully. So that's a little bit easier. And don't worry, this is the only custom code that we use for this whole project. The rest will just be no code. But I think this makes your life a lot easier. So let's also copy the second one and let's go to title number 2 and also put in these values over here, just like that. We don't see the second title, but trust me, it will work. And also for the last one over here, just open title number 3, go into the pencil again, and just make sure to paste it. For title number 4, I haven't done that because when you go really small with fonts, then you don't really see that much of a difference on tablet and mobile. And also for the body text and the subtitle, it's fine on mobile, in my opinion. So now it should work fine. All right, so tablet and mobile are also looking good, but there's one problem that I see, and that is for some reason this button is a little bit at the top. It's not middle aligned anymore. I don't know where that went wrong, but I just want to make sure everything is correct. So let's just go to the menu and make sure to align the items in the middle. Now it should be aligned in the middle also on tablet and mobile. Let's go back, refresh, and let's see. Okay, now that position is better. Okay, that looks good. So that was it for the hero section. And now we can move on to the services section, which are these 3 blocks. So for the services section, we have this kind of layout, but if you want, you can also just put them straight if you think the other design is a little bit too creative. We're actually first going to make it straight and then just add the rotation. So let's just get started. We're going to go back to our editor in Elementor. And then I want to create a new section. We're going to click on the plus. We're going to go with Flexbox again. And then you want to make sure that it is horizontal. Then we need 3 more boxes in here. So let's just add our first one. Let's just click on it. It will automatically add it inside of it. And then we can start adding elements in here. But I want to make 2 duplicates of this one. So just duplicate it 1 time and duplicate it 2 times. So we can see how wide it's actually going to become. Let's first start by adding some text. So what do we need? We need a text over here, which is going to be a title 3 and then just a normal text. Let's copy the text already. And I'm just going to drag in a heading inside of this box. And this first one is going to be called weddings. Then we go into style. We're going to make sure that the typography is title number 3. There we go. The color should be white. And then we're going to add also a text box inside of it. Make sure to add it under the heading like that. Then also go over here and make sure that the text is gray and it's also connected to text. This will make it the bigger version. Now we're going to add an image background. So go to style, in here, click on the image, and now make sure to drag in your service number 1. Again, you should optimize your images with the website like this if you are actually using your own photography. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to keep it like that. But this is actually too big for an image like that, but now you know how to optimize it. So we have to change some of the settings over here. First, make the position center, and then the display size, again, put it on cover. And now it will actually scale properly. And now let's just add some space here on the top, because we have a lot of space over here, but also more space here on the left and on the right. Actually, in our Figma, it says 32 pixels. So let's do that. We're going to go to advanced again. We need the padding again. Let's first put it on rem, because that's better. Then unlink it. And then let's just put 2 at the bottom, because 2 times 16 is 32. 2 on the left, 2 on the right. And then at the top, we're going to need a lot more. Let's just try to start with 10. That's not even enough. Let's try 20. That already looks better. In my Figma, the space from here to here is actually 404. And 400 divided by 16 is 25. 25 in here looks a little bit big, but it's also a little bit bigger because this text is bigger. So in our Figma, there's only 2 rows here. So if we decrease the text over here by going to content and then just make this shorter, now you will see that it's a little bit more in balance. So let's click on the container again. Yeah, now 25 looks great. So let's keep it like that. But we need to do two more things. First is the rounded corners over here. We used 8 here as well. And then of course the black glow from the bottom so the text becomes more visible. Okay, so with your container selected, go to this style, then go to border, and then put the border radius on 8. You can't really see it because of the gray line, but if you click on another container, then you can see that it is applied. Okay, great. Now let's add a background overlay. We're going to do the same trick as for the big image where we added the glow. We're also going to add that gradient. Unfortunately, we cannot really copy the gradients from here because Elementor doesn't allow us to copy specific things, only all of the styles. So we have to set it up for this first one, but then we can copy it to the other ones by just duplicating it. So let's do the same trick. We're just going to put this one on blue. I'm just going to put the opacity on 90%. So it's very bright. For the location, I want to push it down a little bit. And then I want to put this blue on 0% opacity again. And then this one, of course, on our black. You can, of course, also put it at 100%, but then the card kind of like dissolves into the background. I want it to be a little bit visible, so that's why I'm putting it here on 90%, so 0.9. I think that looks great. And before I start duplicating it, because we can already do that, I just want to quickly check responsiveness to see if it doesn't look absolutely horrible. Okay, so here it's starting to break down a little bit. So let's just go in here and then make some changes to the padding. Right now we've used 2, but yeah, this feels out of balance. So let's unlink this and redo it again. What if we do 1 at the sides over here? And instead of 20, we use 15. Okay, that's still very big. Let's just put it at 10. Yeah, that looks a little bit better already. And it also depends on the words you're using. So for example, this word is pretty long, but if you would cut that up, it would be on 2 lines. So yeah, I would not recommend to put too much text in here because otherwise it looks bad. And now I also want to increase the black fade a little bit because now the text reaches like half of the box, which is not the case on desktop. So therefore, I also want to go inside of the background overlay, and then I want to play around with the settings over here. And very annoyingly, we do not see the changes over here right now. I do not exactly know why. So let's refresh it. I'm going to save the draft again, and then refresh it by clicking Command R or Control R. Let's click on the box again. Let's go to tablet mode, or where were we? I think we were in this one. Yes, okay. Let's go to style, background overlay. Okay, that is really annoying. But I know we have to put the value a little bit lower. Let's just publish this and then just go to our final refresh and then just scale the window down to see if it actually looks okay. Yeah, it's still readable, the text. Okay, on mobile it's not great yet, but we will fix that. It's still readable. I don't know. Sometimes Elementor has these issues. It is very annoying. But if you put this location lower, then the gradient will be a little bit higher. Okay, let's now switch to mobile mode. And now we need to make the box taller again. So let's do that. We have to change this setting, but unfortunately we have to unlink it because Elementor doesn't allow us to change one value. It changes all of the values. Yes, I know. It's a little bit annoying. So 1, 1, 1. And then over here, let's just put 20. Yeah, that looks better. And there's one last detail that I think we should do. And that is that I put 32 pixels here at the left and then bottom, but inside of this text widget, there's also some space, which is really annoying. So we can delete that by going into advanced, then unlinking this, and then just decreasing it like this. Let's put it at 16. If somebody has a better solution than what I do right here, then please let me know in the comments because these kinds of things are really annoying. But now we are ready to start duplicating this one. So let's duplicate it once and let's duplicate it twice and then delete the original empty boxes like that. And now let's change up the images and the text. Okay, portraits, and this one is family. All right, family, and there we go. I'm not changing these texts right here. That's up to you what you want to put there, but at least it looks great. Let's also check our other breakpoints. This looks great on a tablet. It looks great. And this one isn't great. I'm not super happy with it, but putting one on the next row will also create an awkward situation. So let's try one more time to mess around with the background overlay. Maybe we can do something here with the main color. Oh, that's now on blue. So let's first make sure to put it on black. And then let's decrease that opacity so that at least the text is readable. Okay, that's already better than what it was. So let's copy that style to the next one by pasting the style. And then unfortunately, it also changes the image. Oh, Lord. Okay, let's replace the images quickly. Okay, I've replaced the images. Now it looks better. And also on mobile, it looks better. And there's one more detail that I see. The space between these two texts is a little bit too big for my taste. Over here, it is 15 pixels, but the default in Elementor is 20. So that's why it's a little bit too big. So you can just change that by going into the container, and then the gap over here, just put it on 15. Or you know what? Let's put it on 10. So also on mobile, it looks a little bit better. I also want to do that over here. Also in gap, put it on 10 and 10 in this one. And now it should also look a little bit better on the tablet and the mobile. Yes, that looks better. All right, last two things. One, it has to be pushed up a little bit over here into the next one. So let's first do that because we want these boxes to be visible already when people visit the page. Let's see what it is right now. So if we publish our changes, refresh this page, and you will see once we start scrolling, the boxes appear, but we want them to be visible already, okay? So we need to push this one up. We're gonna do that by a trick using negative margin. So if you go to advanced, unlink this value, and then put it again on rem, and then we're gonna use a negative number over here. So for example, -4. And this will then drag the whole section up. It already shows up a little bit. Let's do one step more, 5. Okay, let's test that. We're gonna go to publish, go to here, refresh it, and now you can see that they already show up at the bottom. Even if we resize the screen, so if people have a smaller screen, it still shows up even if they are on a tablet mode. How cool is that? Okay, let's quickly check responsiveness. Okay, that also looks good. And on mobile, it also looks fine. But I think I want to push these two down a little bit because the text is coming up pretty high in the picture. So let's push this one down. I'm going to unlink this and I'm just going to put it at -2. So you just see a little bit at the bottom. And then for this background container, let's right click, edit the hero. We're also going to go to advanced. And then at the bottom, I want to change this value as well to 4. Yeah, now the photo has a little bit more space on mobile. And everything still looks great on a tablet and the big computer. Okay, let's publish and let's check it again. Refresh. And then let's go down. That looks good. You can't really see the mobile version over here if you scroll it down like this. If you want to see that, you should right click and then inspect elements. And then you can click this button to go from desktop to mobile. And over here you can select a phone. So for example, iPhone 12 Pro. And then you can see how it looks on the phone. But also this WordPress bar is showing up. So actually what you should view it like is like this. And then you can see that the next image is just showing up a little bit. Of course, you can increase that. But yeah, this is how it looks on a mobile. Okay, let's exit over here. Okay, let's now add that rotate effect if you want to. So let's click on our first container. Let's go to advanced. We're going to go to transform again. And before we start applying any of these settings, make sure that you are on the desktop one and the biggest one. And then let's start by adding a rotate. So we can start by adding a rotate. It's quite dramatic, so I would advise to not go too far. -5 seems to be right. And then we also want to offset it a little bit. I used the values -15 and then at the bottom 15 because then this bottom, this corner, is very close to the next container. And then what you can do is on the hover, you also want to add a rotate, but then you want to put it at 0 so that when people hover, it goes back to normal. And the same thing for offset. Make sure that this one is on 0 and this one is also on 0 so that it goes back to its original position. You can of course also do it the other way around. If you want the straight version to be normal, then you should put it the other way around. So -15 and 15 on the hover, but then on the normal, you should put it on 0, and also for the rotation. And then it's the other way around, if you also don't forget to add the rotation in here, which I forgot. Okay, see, that's also a way to do it, so that's up to you. I'm just giving you some options. For the right one, you need to use opposite values. So let's also try that. I'm going to go to transform again. Let's keep this one on 0, and then for the hover, we're going to add that rotation. But if we're going to do -5 over here, it's going to go to the wrong direction. So here it should be +5, you see? And then in the offset, it should be 15. And then the bottom one should also be a positive number. And then you get that effect. For the middle one, we cannot really do a rotate. I mean, we can, but it's a little bit weird, right? So what if we do a position up? So let's go to transform, hover, then offset, and then let's play around with the eye. So what if we try -15? What would happen then? It would go up. I think that's pretty cool. This one to the left, middle, and then right. So again, if you want to have the rotate effect from the beginning, then make sure to add the 15 pixels values inside of the normal and then put the hover on 0, or you can just continue like this. Okay, now let's add some animations. And I think for this website, it would be really cool if you would first see the picture and then the elements would animate in. So what I mean by that is that if you go into this layer and then you go to motion effects and then entrance animation, for example, fade in up, you will see that it fades in up, but you can add a delay. So by default, this is on 0, but for example, you can do 500 milliseconds, which is half a second. So then let's click on publish and click this one on refresh. You will see that the text will come in after half a second. So the people first have some time to look at the picture. How cool is that? Let's apply it to more elements. For example, the menu over here, motion effects, drop in, down, of course, not up. And then also add a 500 millisecond delay. And then what if we also animate in these cards a little bit later by going to motion effects, fade in up, like that. And then instead of 0, just add a little bit more. For example, 750 milliseconds, so almost a second. Let's see how that looks if we visit it on the live website. How cool is that? We first see the photo and then everything animates in, and we have these cool hover effects right now on our images. I think this is starting to look really cool. So that was it for the services section. We're halfway through the video. Let's now go to the about section, which should be quite easy. In the about section, it contains two sections which are exactly the same size. We have the left part and the right part. Both of them are 455 pixels. We can use these values on desktop, but again on mobile we will probably have to mess around with percentages and also on tablet. But we can make it pixel perfect on the desktop, so let's just start doing that. First, make sure we have the image ready. It's gonna be this one. It's actually flipped around. So let's see what we can do with that. And also let's take a look on the spacing. From this section to the next section, it's 240 pixels, and the same here at the top. 240 pixels divided by 2 is 120. And so we actually need 120 pixels on the top and 120 at the bottom, because this next section with all of the images will then also have some padding inside. You could of course also just add one big section with 240 pixels, but I always work like this, where I have a section like this with some padding on the inside, so that when you want to extend your website, you want to copy things to multiple pages, it already looks good and you don't have to manually change everything again. So again, I want to work smartly, so that's what we're going to do here as well. Okay, so let's start by creating a new container with the flex box. And by the way, some bar here at the bottom appeared about the pro version. You could just click that one away. If you want to explore the pro version, you can also do that via the link that I provide over here. You can actually see on this page what I like about the pro version of Elementor. I use this all the time. This is actually one of the few times where I'm not using the pro version. So yeah, you can check that out if you're curious about the pro version. Okay, this section is obviously going to be a horizontal one. So let's click on that. And then we need an image in a mask, in a round mask, and 3 items over here. But we need to put a box around these 3 items because these 3 items are stacked vertically, not horizontally as well, right? So we need one extra box in here. So let's add an image in here by you can just click on it or click and then drag it inside. And then also one more container, which is a box. And there we go. It automatically stacks it to the right because we set up this container as a horizontal thing. If you don't see that, then you can simply just change it over here, the direction. Okay, now let's upload our image. There we go. It's going to be super big. Don't worry about that. Elementor will tell you that you need to optimize your images. They also have a plugin, but I like to use a separate website so that my website stays clean and I don't have to install a lot of plugins. So you can just click this message away. Then if you click on style, the image becomes a little bit smaller for some reason. And we first need to flip the direction. The easiest way is to just go over here in advanced, scroll down to transform, and then there's just a button here, flip horizontal. Why do I do this? It's always better to let the person look at the text instead of look away, because our eyes will always follow where other people are looking at. This one is just a little bit better because it creates a focus on the text. You don't want to distract too much with images. So that's it. And now we also need to add some kind of a mask. There's also simply a mask option here at Elementor. You can open it, put it on. Circle is already the default one, but if you like flowers, you can put it on the flower or a blob. You can even put custom. So if you have some kind of custom shape, what I mean by this is a shape like this. You can export that as an SVG or a PNG. And then you can upload that if you have some kind of custom shape. Maybe something in the line of your brand could be really cool. But for now, we're just going to keep it simple and stick it to the circle. Here you can also change the size. So if you want it to zoom in a lot more or smaller, then you can do that. And so this is all good. We just now need to make sure that this whole widget is the width that we set up in Elementor. So let's go to this widget, advanced, inside of layout. Here you can set up the width of the widget. So let's just put this one on pixels and put it on 455. And there we go. That does not look good. And that is because of this container as well. It's trying to grow automatically. So don't worry about that. We set this up now correctly because once we start messing around with this one, which we can also put on pixels 455, so then you will see that it already changes, but we also need to add some height over here because this image doesn't simply have enough space in here to grow to its actual size. So let's just also add some text in here. We're gonna go to the heading again, just drag in a heading just like that. Let's link it to our typography. I think I use title 1 over here, and of course make it white. Yeah, I think I just said hello over here. You can type in anything you want. You can also type in here, but I think it's better if you teach yourself to type in here, because what happens often is that people copy things from other applications, for example, from Word or from ChatGPT or whatever, and then it adds some kind of code in here which you cannot see if you just paste it in here. So if you go over here, you can clearly see there's no added code over here, something weird like this. It's not added. So then you know you're good and your text looks exactly the way as you want. Okay, what else do we need? We need a text box. Let's just copy this text and go in here and also add a text. And of course, we're going to change the color to the text color and the typography to text. That's great. Now we're going to add in that fake text that I created. Okay. And then the last part is this fun little text, which is, by the way, the same font as the one I used in my logo, Satisfy. So let's just do that. I think it's a really cool effect. We're going to add another heading inside of here, and we're just going to put in my name. Okay. And then we're going to change the typography to, oh wait, we haven't saved this one because this is literally the only place we use it on the website. We don't have to use the globals. We can just mess around in here. Just put it on Satisfy. What size do we need right here? 48. So let's just put in 48. And now we just need to check for mobile and tablet if things look good. I forgot the color. Let's change the color to white. And there we go. Now we need to do two more things. One is to push this box to the right because now they're super close to each other. There's only 20 pixels in between. And here, so here it says 115 pixels. Let's just do that. So inside of the background container, we're gonna just add 115 pixels between these two boxes. Now it's exactly as our Figma design. Almost, we're getting there, but at least that space between the two boxes is now good. But our image is not so good. So let's click on our image and go to the Style tab. And then here in height, we have to change it from pixels to percentages and then just increase it to 100%. We want to make sure it's using 100% of the height, but you can already see it starts to distort our image. So then we have another setting here, which we can put on cover, and that will then not mess up the aspect ratio. And now it looks very similar to our Figma. Figma is zoomed in a little bit more, but it's very similar. You can, of course, always crop the image a little bit. So yeah, that's starting to look really good. Now let's add our spacing at the top and at the bottom. Like I said, we're going to use 120 pixels. If you divide that by 16, we will see 7.5. That means that we will need 7.5 rem on the top and on the bottom. So let's go to our background container inside of the padding. Let's add 7.5. Maybe some of you need to add point. It really depends. Sometimes it's a little bit hard, but I am using 7.5, which works. And I'm also doing that over here. Okay, and I do want to say one more thing here, and that is that for most websites, I am actually also using classes for padding, so that you can reuse these sizes for top and bottom throughout the whole website. You can also do automatic scaling for responsiveness. But this website is quite small. It's just one page. So we don't really need to go that advanced, and I want to keep it beginner friendly as well. But I just want to say that normally I would use a class right here. Okay, and then there's one more thing that I see, and that is that there's a little bit of space inside of this container. This text doesn't quite touch the edge, also not at the top. Of course, there's also some space inside of this heading widget, but this pink line is not touching the sides. And so you can delete that by going in here, advanced, and then putting this on 0. There you go. But this does it only for this container. But we're going to have that problem a lot more in all of the containers actually, because Elementor automatically adds 10 pixels in every container so that you can easily see it basically. It just makes it a little bit easier, but it makes it harder to align your design pixel perfect. So you can turn that off for the whole website by going to the site settings over here and then going to layout, and then over here container padding, just unlink it, and there we go. Now it changes it. Let's see if our top sections are also influenced now, because I saw something jumping. No, it did not. Okay, for these ones it did not change because we already put in our own values here. But this is just for the default containers. Okay, it's on 0 now. I'm gonna click save and I'm gonna go back to the page. And let's just save it and then preview it. Okay, that still looks very good. Let's now check responsive before we move on. So let's click on the background container. Let's go to laptop. Laptop still looks great. Okay, this one also still looks great. But now the space between this one is a little bit too big. I think we should decrease that a little bit. So let's go back and just change it to another value. Maybe, for example, 80. Do you see the difference? Let's go back one step. It was like this, and now it's like this. so that the text has a little bit more space. I think that looks great. Let's go one size smaller, and here again I want to decrease the size, maybe only 50 pixels. And now we can start to see a problem occur, and that is that the picture is zoomed in way too much, and that is because it will actually use the whole widget height for the picture. You can see that if you turn off the mask, you can see that this is actually what's going on. It's adding that mask on top of it. And so we need to add some kind of trick to make this widget smaller. You can do that by going inside of the widget, then going to Advanced Layout, and then clicking on Align Self and then to the center. But am I happy now with this design? I don't really think so. I think now it looks way too small. Even though we could increase its size, I want to change this layout. I think we should now go to a one column design to make things look better. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our background container, and now I'm just going to change its position to a vertical one. And there we go. Now we have more freedom to mess around with this image. Maybe we want to make it bigger or smaller. Right now I would put it on percentages because we're working on a tablet. So let's say that 75, that looks great. But now this whole box is not good aligned anymore. So let's go to our background container and make sure that all of the items are middle aligned. And also for this box, I now want to switch to percentages. So if you go to layout and then go over here and also put this one on 75. But now this image is still middle aligned, but our text is not. So let's also middle align our text in here, just like that. Click on the different widgets and just put them on middle. So it looks like a little profile over here. Okay, let's also go to mobile and see how that looks. I think on tablet, the size of the autograph still looks great. Maybe on mobile, it's a little bit too big. So let's just make it a little bit smaller here. What about 40? Yeah, it's not that big of a difference, but it does look a little bit better. Okay, that looks great for our about section as well. And I want to say one more thing, and that is about the image. So now we have used a mask, which works, right? But it can be a little bit annoying that sometimes it just crops and zooms in. Maybe you don't like that. So if that's the case, then I would recommend to export the image as a circle in exactly the size you want. So for example, if this is the perfect framing you want, and you just export this as a PNG, then Elementor cannot really zoom into your image. But right now we have used a mask, and that comes with some limitations. But yeah, the most important thing is that it looks good on all devices. Just on tablet, it's a little bit more zoomed in right now. But I just wanted to give you that tip if you're dealing with other types of images. I want to do one more thing, and that is add a little bit of an animation to this image. So if you click on the image, then go to transform. I want to add a little bit of a rotation to the image when people hover. I think that's pretty cool. So for example, 5 pixels. Let's do it the other way around. Something like this, that's pretty cool. What you can also do is, for example, scale. So if you put the scale on 1.1, again, I'm in hover, I'm not in normal, then this will happen. It's also pretty cool. And you can even combine that if you feel really crazy today. For example, -5 plus the scale. So now scale is on and rotate is on. Look at that. Is that cool? I think it is. I think the scale is a little bit too much. So let me just put it on 105. Yeah, animations should always be subtle, otherwise it becomes cheap. I know entrance animations are quite cool, what we did over here, but if you add too many of them, then people get a little bit too crazy when they visit your website. So yeah, the entrance animations that we made, totally cool and fine. But here I just want to keep it simple and just this hover animation. Okay, that was it for the about section. Let's now talk about the portfolio section or the work section, which is step number 7. We are making progress. We're already at step number 7 from the 10. So keep going. This one is actually quite easy. It's just 2 columns with images stacked on top of each other. You can do this with images and also with video. So if you're a videographer, or maybe even a combination of that, you make photos and videos, then you can also put videos in here. And I will also show you how you can put the video as the background over here at the top. Okay, let's get started. We can do something similar as the previous section. We're going to use a flexbox, put it on horizontal, and let's first add some padding at the top and at the bottom. And remember, we need 120, which is 7.5 rem. Also at the bottom, you can see that's also 240 pixels to the bottom. Yeah, we can use the exact same values. Let's put it on rem again. Let's unlink it at the top, 7,5, and at the bottom. And let's just add a container because, like I said, it's two big columns with images stacked on top of each other. In the Pro version, there's a widget where you can combine all of this in one widget, but yeah, we don't have the Pro version, so we have to be a little bit more creative. Let's drag in our two containers. So this is the first one, and then we can just duplicate this one to get the second one on the right. Now we're just gonna add some images. So let's just drag in an image widget over here and upload an image. We have 6 portfolio items over here. You can select all of them and then upload them at once. And after that, you can select one that you want. So this takes a few seconds depending on your internet speed. Okay, the first one is already ready, so we can just select that from here. As you can see, it's 2563 pixels high. And so I want to use a lot of that resolution. And Elementor has a feature where they automatically select a size for you. But this is a portfolio section, so we want to use a big size over here. The biggest size maybe not really necessary because we don't have that much space because we're using only 50% of the width of the page. But I would definitely not put it too low because then it becomes unsharp. Then let's add some zoom effect because this is a photo. And so we're going to go to advanced, then go to transform, then go to hover, scale, and let's put it on 1.1. Let's see. That's pretty cool, but this is a portfolio section. So what about 1.2? It's a little intense, I think. So let's do 1.15. Okay, that's a little bit better. I think that's a pretty cool effect for this portfolio section. And now let's just duplicate this first one. And then for the second one, we're just going to select the second one. They've all been uploaded in the meantime. Perfect. And because we duplicated it, this one now already also has the hover effect, which is cool. So let's do that for the last one over here. Okay, this girl, we have that. And now we can also copy this first one and paste it in the next one, and then just select the next photo over here. Okay, so let's do that 2 more times. Duplicate, select, and a duplicate, select. Let's now work on the crop. For example, this face doesn't show the whole thing. It cuts off right under the chin. And whether you like that or not, I just want to show you how you can do that. I tried to mess around with the settings over here with height and then cover. That's definitely an option how to do it, but it's a little bit harder because you are limited with the options over here. So I think the best option to make sure that your photos look exactly how you want is to not mess around with these settings over here, but just opening the image over here and then just click on edit the image. And WordPress literally has a cropping feature in here. So just use your own eyes. It's here in the middle of her forehead and then under her chin. So if we just edit it like that, just like that, you can apply the crop, save the edits, and then select. And now it should pick the right version. Doesn't always do that because sometimes it needs to cache. So what you can try to do is just publish it and then refresh the page, and then it will probably show the new version. Yeah, there you go. Super easy. Let's also do that for this one because this one we actually cropping from left and right quite a bit. She is in the middle, so let's also crop her just like that. Apply the crop, save the edits, select the image, and again, publish it and refresh. And of course, you can also just view it at the front end because there it will also reload with the right image. Yeah, there you go. So you can just crop your images right now if you don't like the aspect ratio, but it does delete the pixels, I have to say. So just know that. Okay, I'm gonna do 2 more crops in the meantime. And now we have this nice Tetris effect. I think it looks really cool. Let's view our work at the front end by refreshing. It's starting to become really cool. Yes, great. I think we forgot to add some padding in this container. So let's also do that before we move on. So inside of the container, there's no space at the top and the bottom. So let's also go in advanced. And then wait, maybe we can even copy the styles from this one. Is that possible? Let's try it. This one, because it also has 2 containers. Yeah, it is possible, but it does add that huge gap in the middle. So that's something that we should definitely delete. And we also should check, of course, on the other devices because that gap is coming back because we added that manually, remember? Just make sure that it's deleted everywhere. Okay, now we have that space on the top and on the bottom, and it looks great on desktop. But now that I'm seeing this, I'm like, wait, actually, this space is big on desktop, but it's maybe too big on a tablet. Also still looks fine, but on a mobile, how do you guys feel about this? You can close this window. There's lots of space. Some people like it to have lots of space, but maybe you're thinking this is a little bit too much. So then obviously you can decrease the spacing just for mobile by unlinking this again. And for example, decreasing it to, I don't know, 4. And then the space between the sections is a little bit less just on mobile. And yeah, that's it. Okay, are we done? Let's check our design. And no, we're not done. We forgot the rounded circles on the images. Over here. You see the rounded circles? Let's put them on by going into each image and then going into style. And then we're going to go to border radius and just going to put it at 8. And that's it. You can't really see it in here. You have to click on another image to see it applied. And yes, it works. Now we can copy and paste the style. And then it doesn't replace the image. It did that over here because we were copying and pasting a style in a container. And here the image is part of the styling because it's a background. And so with this one, it's the image widget. And therefore we can copy and paste the style to the other ones because it's the whole widget. It's not just a style part inside of a container. Okay, let's check responsive one more time before we move on. It scales beautifully. We don't have to do anything here. And on the smaller tablet, yeah, it's also pretty cool, right? To have them a little bit bigger. And then on the mobile, obviously, 1 column as well. I think this is starting to look great. Let's save our work. And I want to say 2 more things before we move on. First is about that hover animation, because we made a little mistake. We actually applied the hover effect when we were in the laptop breakpoint. I don't know if you also did that, but I did that. So when you apply the skill on the hover on the laptop, just know that it doesn't mean that it has to be applied on the biggest desktop as well. So if you have a situation right now where you publish your work, you check your page, but the animation, the hover animation doesn't work on your image, then you probably applied it when we were on laptop. So what you can do then is just delete it from the laptop, then go down 1 step or go up 1 step, however you want to say it. Then apply the scaling on hover over here. And then it will automatically also be applied for all of these smaller breakpoints. Remember, you cannot go up, you can only go down. So the things you apply over here automatically also apply over there. Okay, and then the last thing is about video. So far, we have only worked with photos, but what if you want to have a video also in there? And then you can just go to the plus and in here search for video. This is a pro widget, which you can do a whole playlist, but we're just gonna drag in a normal video. You can drag it in here, and then you can simply replace this with a YouTube link, Vimeo, or you can even upload your own MP4 if you want in here. But warning, this will make your website slower because especially on this website, it's just one page. There's a lot of big photos. So if you use this option where you just drag in your MP4 over here, then it will work, but it will slow down your website. So I highly recommend to just upload your video on YouTube or Vimeo. If you really care about quality, then Vimeo has a higher quality than YouTube, but YouTube these days is also very good. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. By default, it is 16 by 9. That's the aspect ratio. So 16 over here and 9 over here. These are not pixels, but that's the aspect ratio. You can change that over here in the widget. So let's say you make a lot of YouTube shorts. You can even do that. Pretty cool stuff, right? And this is YouTube Shorts, but you can also do other platforms. So for example, let's go to my personal TikTok. And let's say that we want to put this TikTok on my portfolio. Then you can go into the TikTok and then you will see this little button over here, which will say embed. For me, it's in a different language. Click on it and then you get this code. If you copy this code, then go back to your Elementor, then you cannot paste it in the video widget. You have to use another widget. So let's also do that. You have to type in HTML. That's where you can paste the code in. So drop it in here and then drop that code in there. And there you go. Now it will show that TikTok. But as you can see, it also adds a lot of other stuff to it. But it is possible to insert a TikTok. And the same is true on Instagram, by the way. So if you have a reel that you want to post, you can go to the three dots and then go over here. It says embed. And here on Instagram, you can actually uncheck the description, which is better. So first uncheck that, then copy the code and then paste in that code. And there you go. Your Instagram is now inserted. Again, it's not so clean as the YouTube short one, but it is possible. And the last place where you can use a video is here at the top in our hero section. So if you right click over here, then edit the hero, or you just open your layers panel and then click on the hero. Then inside of the style, instead of a photo, you can also add a video. And here is the same trick. So here you can just paste in a link to a video that you made, and then you have a video background. So just know that that's also an option with the video link over here. And then there's one more option, and that's slideshow. Actually, for this website, that can work. So let's try that. Let's just select a few images over here. So now I have these 3 images. Create a new gallery. You can change the order if you want. And then automatically after 5 seconds, the image fades to another image, which is pretty cool. So if you want that shorter, you can change this, for example, to 3000, which is 3 seconds. You can do slide right. So after 3 seconds, the new photo slides in, which is actually coming from the left. So you can also turn it around. And also the duration of the animation, you can also, for example, make it 1.5 seconds, and then the animation will become a lot slower. Look at that, a lot smoother. So now you also know how to do that. And I think we can start to become a little bit more proud because our website is gonna look really cool. And now we can move on to this pricing section, a text-heavy section, but obviously very important part of the website. The pricing section basically consists of 3 blocks, which all have a border at the bottom. And then we also have this background image, which of course, if you want, you can make it more visible depending on your photo. But there's one challenging part here, and that is that this section overflows a little bit into the previous section. We can even make that more extreme if we want to, and also here at the bottom. So we will need a lot of space at the top and the bottom, and then we need to drag the next section into it, and therefore we're going to use a similar trick we used before. Okay, let's first focus on the content itself by just creating one of these boxes, and then we can simply duplicate them to the other ones. So we have a big title 2, then we have title 3, normal text, and then the subtitle with an arrow. And for this one, I want to use a button without a background so that we can add an arrow easily to it. Okay, so let's get started in Elementor. We're gonna scroll down. I'm gonna add a new section. Flexbox is gonna be a vertical one. And then we're gonna add our first container in it. And then we're gonna add a heading over here, which is going to be a title 2 for the big one. That's going to be white. And this one will be our services. So we have 3 services over here: wedding, portrait, family. So we're gonna put the first one in here. And then I want to add a text, a normal text here at the bottom. Just make sure that it's on the text global font and of course our color as well. There's a little description that I came up with, but of course you can put in whatever text you want. I would not make it too long though, because otherwise it will go into this one. So keep it short. But now we can already see a problem, because how are we going to put this text on the right side? We need another box around this. And to keep things simple, let's add another container inside of here, like that. Let's now open the layers panel so we can actually see what we're doing in a little bit more detail. And so this is going to be the box where these 2 texts are in, and then we need another box for these 2 texts. So I'm going to duplicate this container for the right one. Let's drag these widgets into this one. I like to do it here in the layers panel, because then I have a little bit more of a control. It's still not perfect. Sometimes it jumps to somewhere else and then you just try it again. Okay, so now these 2 text layers are inside of this container, and we also have this container, but this container then needs to be a horizontal one so that we can put items here on the right. Let's just copy our heading, because we already set up the colors and the typography. It just needs to be one size smaller. So if we go in the style over here from title 2 to title 3, let's close this one for now. And this text should be right aligned. This is going to be the price. So I said here from $500. And then we just need to add this one for the button. And we have already made a button somewhere else on the website. So let's just use that one over here. I'm just going to right click and copy, scroll down, click on this one and then paste it. I'm clicking on this one so that Elementor knows where to paste it next, because it will automatically paste it under the layer you have clicked on before. Okay, so now we're going to style this button. Let's position it to the right. Let's add an arrow in there. So by default, there's no arrow, but we can use the icon library from Elementor to search for arrows. And we need a right arrow like this one. And there we go. It's now in front of it. We can change it to be at the end. And then I also want to increase the spacing a little bit. Let's add a little bit more space between that contact and the icon. And then I want to delete the border, because we're not going to use that here. So I'm putting the border type on none, and then also the padding on 0, so that it doesn't become too big. I also see that when I zoom in, is that the arrow is actually white, and I don't want that here. So we also need to change that in here. So just make sure that on text color it is on gray. Okay, so that is starting to look good. But one thing that we need to fix is that this text is on the same height as the schedule button. So let's try to create a little bit more space in between them. And we can easily do that by just going into the smaller containers and then just pushing the other ones to the bottom. And we can also do that for this one. But here it doesn't really change. And that's because there is still some space inside of that text layer. So we need to delete that again. So by unlinking this and then decreasing it, we can see that it changes. So -16 is what I'm using here. And now they're both on the same height. Okay, that looks great. But now we need to add that line over here. That's a gray line of 1 pixel. So let's do that. I'll need to open the main container. Cannot really click on it because it's under this. So I need to open the layers panel again and then click on this container, the full box. Okay, so if we start to add a border inside of this, let's first just add a border that we can clearly see by putting it on solid, just putting it on 5 and then just giving it a green color or whatever. Now we can clearly see it. And then I want to add that space at the bottom, which in Figma says is 48. So that's going to be exactly 3 rem. So let's add a little bit of padding at the bottom of this container. 3. And there we go. And now we can go back to the style, to the border, and we could just put this back on 1 pixel. You can't really see it right now, only if you click on another layer, but trust me, it's there. Then unlink this and then only put it at the bottom. So all of the other ones on 0. Then change the color to text, the gray one, and now it should be visible. Let me click outside of here to somewhere else, for example on this image, and now we can see the border clearly. It looks great. Now we need to duplicate this whole container, but if we do it from here, we're duplicating the wrong one. So we need to select this from the layers panel again, and from here we can duplicate it now, and then it will create a new row. But before we do that, I want to go one step back. So I'm clicking Command Z or Control Z. I want to check responsiveness, because before you start duplicating, you should always check. Otherwise, you have a lot more work. And so let's go to laptop. Does that still look great? I think it still looks great, but this one goes on a new row. So we can make this box a little bit bigger by just dragging it like that. For example, 71%. Okay, let's now go to tablet mode. Now I want to adjust this one again and give this one a little bit more space. Okay, now that looks great. But from here on, I think we will need to use 2 columns again. Yeah, this is not great. So now I want to open the layers panel again, making sure we're on one of the pricing rows. Let's just change the name over here to make things easy. Pricing 1, okay? That's the main box. So this is the background container. This is the pricing box number 1. And then from here, let's put it in a vertical. And then of course, we also need to change the text alignment. Maybe you'll like it like this, but I think on the left looks a little bit better. So let's just put it on the left. Yeah, that looks great. And then let's check it on mobile. Okay, so let's go back to the big tablet and see if everything looks good. Laptop still looks good. And for some reason, desktop doesn't look good anymore. So what happened here? I'm not exactly sure. This one has also turned into pixels. I didn't even ask it to do that. That's a little bit weird. Let's just make sure this one is also on percentages. Let's just keep it on 70%. And also on the desktop, let's just put it on 65. Okay, that looked great. Let's do one more check. Oh, now this one is messed up. What is going on here? That's very annoying. Oh, here, by the way, for tablet, you can put this one at 100 because you want to give it as much space as possible for this text. Okay, so again, check multiple times on the different breakpoints before you move on. Otherwise, you're going to run into many issues. Okay, now we should be ready for duplicating. Let's make sure we're on the right layer. Okay, so I'm going to open the structure panel again, pricing 1. Let's close it and now duplicate it. Okay, that looks better. Duplicate it. Let's change the naming over here so we know where to find stuff. And then now I'm going to change the text layers with the right text. Okay, that is starting to look great. Let's see how it looks on the front end. So I'm going to go and save it and then refresh this link. And let's see, does that look good? Yes, that looks good. A little nice detail that you can add to buttons, which I like to do as well, is to also add a little animation over it. So we're going to go again to transform, hover, offset. And then if you put this one, for example, at 6, you'll see that when you hover, it like moves to the right. I think that's a really cool effect. It's subtle, it's not too much. So let's add that. So now we can copy this style to the other ones by pasting the style. Like that. Okay, now everything should look great. Let's test it one more time by going to the front end. And there we go. That looks great. And does responsive look great? Yeah, this also looks great. Okay, let's now start messing around with the background. We have this image of this young lady, but the actual image is actually like this. So we're going to use a trick again to create that glow on all of the sides. So I'm going to go in my background container, then go to style, and then we're going to add that image to the website by uploading it. Select. Okay, let's first make sure we can actually see something. The position should be center and the display size should be on cover. but we need a lot more space on the top and on the bottom. So let's also go to advanced and unlink the padding. Let's go to rem values and let's just add, I don't know, maybe even 9 and 9 to the top. That's quite a bit of space. Maybe it's not even enough, but let's just start working with this. Now I want to add that glow. So if you go to background overlay, then to gradient, and then let's first put it on a different color so we can actually see what's going on. Okay, just like that. And now we're going to put it from linear to radial, and then it comes from the middle. Let's put the opacity up so we can actually see the whole thing. You see how that works? So now we can play around with this location in order to make sure that it fades. But make sure that the red stays fully red on the sides, because otherwise it will not fade into pure black. So you need to pull these values a little bit towards each other. I'm just going to decrease the colors now. So this one is going to be 0, and then this one is going to be our dark background. And that already looks great. Let's mess around with this one also. Yeah, maybe this one should be a little bit lower. I think this is pretty cool, but she's actually too bright. In my Figma, she's actually a lot darker, and we can also do that by selecting our dark, but then unlinking it by clicking on the color itself and then decreasing the opacity like this, so she becomes a little bit darker. It should not be too distracting. This is a pricing section. Okay, so now we want to drag this section up into the other sections. We can also do that by going in here, then go to advanced, unlink the margin, let's go to rem, and then we're going to add some negative rem here at the top. So for example, -5. It's not enough, so we need a lot more actually. Let's do -15. Okay, but now it's on top. So we need to make sure it's at the bottom. And we can do that by putting the work section on the top. So if we go in here, we go to advanced, and then we're going to put the Z index on 2. And then if we scroll down, you can see the difference. So without it, and then with it, it's now on top. And technically, this whole section from the work doesn't have a background. See, we didn't add a background. We added the background color to the whole page. And that's why we can actually do this. But now it's way too close, so we have to mess around with the padding again. But now it's impossible to click on this layer because this one is on top. So now we need the layers panel again and just go in here. Everything is called container. It's a little bit confusing. I think it's going to be this one. Yeah, let's just call it pricing background so that we know what it is. And now we're going to increase the top padding as well. We have put them 15 up, so let's try 15 as well. Is that too close? I think it's a little bit too close, huh? So let's try 20. Is that a little bit better? Yeah, now it still flows into the next section, but there's enough space over here. I think that looks great. So we have 20 at the bottom here as well. And then we want to drag the next section up in it by -15. There's no section yet. So for now, I'm just going to leave it at 0 so that it's a little bit easier to build. But we need to change this value when we're working on the next section to make sure it also dragged into this image and you get this cool overflow effect. Let's check responsiveness as always. This one looks great. This one also looks great. This one, ooh, the face becomes really big here, but I think it's fine. Maybe this space over here is a little bit too much. So let's change these values over here from maybe 20 to 16. Yeah, that's a little bit less. I think that works a little bit better. And then on the mobile, how does it look? Yeah, over here, the spacing is fine. But there's one more thing about spacing that I want to change, and that is that the spacing between the last item here and the line is not the same over here as at the top, which annoys me a little bit. So there's two things we can do. Of course, we can decrease the spacing over here so that it's the same as on the top, but everything on this website is so big. So let's just stick to that style. Oh, I made a little spelling mistake over here. It's portraits, of course. Okay, so let's add a little bit of space here at the top. And I don't know if you remember, but the way we added this space over here was by adding some padding, some space on the inside of this box. And we could, of course, also do the same for the top, But we can do it even smarter because these three big blocks are all part of the background container. So we have pricing 1, 2, and 3, but the background container, the pricing background with that image, we can also do something here with the gap. So that's the space between these 4 blocks. By default, it's 20. So that's the space between this and this, because the line is the last part of the first block, and then the top of this text is the start of the next big pricing block. And so if we increase the gap over here, you will see what happens. It will increase the spacing only at the top because this line is part of that inner block. So that works pretty well. And so let's also stick to rem over here, and let's just increase the spacing until it visually looks good. And this is very hard to do, to make perfect. We cannot just use the exact same spacing over here. What I mean by that is the space between the top of the portrait and the actual widget. As you can see, there's still some space over here. It's not that much, it's like 10 pixels, but it is there and we cannot really remove that. And so the value here will not exactly be the same as on the top, and therefore I'm just using my eyes over here. And you could of course also, like I often do, just use the screenshot tool. I get many questions about this screenshot tool. It is just the basic feature on Mac. So if you have a Windows, they also have a screenshot feature. I don't know if they also show the pixels, but yeah, let me show you how you can do that as well. So I'm just gonna calculate this. How high is it? 74 pixels, and here, okay, it's a little bit more. So I'm gonna increase it a little bit more, maybe like 2.2. The way to get this screenshot tool on the Mac is Command Control Shift 4. I know that is a mouthful, but if you do that, then it doesn't make a screenshot and saves it on your desktop, but it just saves it on your clipboard. So if you would do that without the control, so Command Shift 4, then it would save that image on your computer, which is annoying because I just want to have a measurement, and therefore with the control as well, you can just use it as a measurement tool. And then when you're done, you just click Escape. But in this case, I'm just measuring a little bit more. Okay, let's check it. Yeah, this looks perfect. So now at the bottom we have 3, and then the gap in between is 2.2. So this is an example of where Figma is not exactly the same as your web development tool. But again, we are very close to Figma. Our design is basically pixel perfect now. Okay, step 9, the review section. It looks a little bit complicated, but I think this is gonna be easy because if I remember correctly, we have a simple widget in Elementor that can help us to create this section. It also doesn't have a background because this one fades into this one and then the footer fades into this one. So yeah, let's just get started. We're just gonna create a new section and we're gonna use the flexbox. And for this one, we're going to use vertical. And that is because this whole box with the 4 testimonials is vertically stacked to the title. Okay, so now let's first drag in a heading. And if you're a little bit lazy like me, then you can also just go over here and just copy this one, scroll down and then paste it. So we don't have to change the styling. Just call it reviews or testimonials. And then we want to add one more container, just like that. Okay, and now go to the plus again and search for testimonial. There's also a pro version with a slider, but this is already in the free version. So if we go in here, we don't see a lot, but this already contains a few elements, so we don't have to build this all by hand, which is also possible. Of course, you could also just drag in some text widgets and put a mask on the image and do it like that. But yeah, why not make our lives easy with this one? Let's first change the color so we can actually see something. The content should be in gray, and of course the text styling that we use throughout the website. The image is fine, and then for the name, we want to use the title 4. Remember, this one was title 4. And then the title over here was the subtitle. We're going to keep things consistent. So let's add title number 4. Let's make it white. And then for the title, this was gray, and then on the subtitle style over here. And there we go. Now we just need to change the alignment to the left. We can do that in the content box over here, alignment. It's a little bit confusing. Sometimes the alignment is in content, sometimes it's in styling. I don't know how Elementor decides where these things go, but that's how it works. Then we want to add a border around it. And there's also some space here in the middle. On all sides, it's 32. So that's going to be 2 rem. Let's just add that. Let's first add a border via the style. Oh no, wait. Sorry. Normally, the border is over here. This is also one of these things where you're not always sure where things are. In the image widget, the border is over here, but in a widget like this, you have to go to advanced and then the border is over here. So yeah, this is also a perfect example. It's not always exactly clear where things are. Sometimes you need to look a little bit through the menus. Okay, I'm gonna make it solid, and for now, let's just make it green so we can clearly see it. Let's just make it 5. Okay, that looks horrible, but we're still changing it. There's also a border radius over here, which is the same. It's going to be 8, so we're going to add 8 pixels of border radius. For these kinds of values, you could of course also use rem, but it's not really relevant here because it doesn't really matter if a border radius scales up or down. It doesn't decrease readability that much. And this is because rem is made for scalability if people change their browser settings. But yeah, again, for now, it's not really relevant. So let's now add a little bit of spacing on the inside and then change that horrible green. On this one, I want to use some rem. Just put it at 2, and there we go. And now we can change the border styling to just 1 pixel. And just let me check my design. Yeah, we're also using the gray over here. So that's it. And now I'm thinking about the layout. What can we do? It's a very similar layout to the photos section over here. It's also like a Tetris game. And because we have this Tetris design over here, it's not really possible to just create one row and then move it on to the next one, because you cannot really make this corner. And so we have to create a similar situation as we had with the photo section, where we have 2 vertical containers. So this means that we have to add 2 extra containers, one for the left vertical one and then one for the right vertical one. So I'm going to do that by going in here, add another one, and then duplicate this. So now in order to make sure we're not getting lost, let's open the navigator and go over here. So this is the reviews section. We have one heading that's just floating inside of the background container. Then we have this big container which contains the 2 other containers. So this container is just going to be the one that contains all 4 testimonials. And then we're going to have one container that contains these 2 and then one that contains the other 2. So that means that this testimonial shouldn't be in this container, but in one of these ones. To make it easier, let's just call this one left and this one right. Okay. Now I want to duplicate this testimonial like that. And then because we need 2 per side, I'm going to duplicate it one more time and then drag one of them inside of the right one. And now everything is vertical. So then we need to go to this one, which contains left and right, and put this one on horizontal. Now we're starting to get the layout that we want. We just have one here on the side, so I'm just also going to duplicate this one. And now let's test if it works. So let's say that this second one has a little bit more text. For example, I'm just going to copy this one and just add more text in here. And I'm also going to do that for this top one. And there you go. Now you can see that we have that cool effect over here. That looks great. Now we can add some top and bottom spacing, but maybe we don't need that much because we already want to drag this one into it. So the more spacing we add here on the top and the bottom, the harder it will be to drag these other ones into it. So in this situation, maybe we don't need to add anything. We just need to go into the pricing container over here and then just also apply that negative margin at the bottom. Remember, we did -15 at the top to make sure that the background image is dragged into this section. And now we're also going to do that at the bottom. So -15, not 150, but 15. No, it's too much. For the bottom, it's too much. I'm just going to use my eyes for now, but I'm going to go back to Figma to actually measure it. It's going to be 240. I accidentally changed it to pixels. 240. So I'm going to use my screenshot feature again in order to track it. Okay, so now I'm seeing that 240 is around here and the whole spacing is 260. So that means that there's a difference of 22 pixels, which is about 1.5 rem. So let's try minus 6.5 and that should work approximately. Yeah, it's a few pixels off, but I am okay with that. So we can do it 6.4 if we want to make it perfect. Yeah, now it's pretty much perfect. Yeah, now it's 240. So here again, you have to hack around a little bit to make it perfect. And let's now also measure it at the top, because maybe we didn't do a great job over here. No, we didn't even do it. This is 213, and 213 minus 240 is 27. 27 divided by 16 is 1.7. So that means that this one should be 13.3. Am I crazy? Is my math working? Yes, it's working. Okay. Now it's exactly like our Figma design. And of course, it depends on you how far you want to go with this. Okay, let's put in some images over here. We can just quickly add our images. I have 4 testimonial images in here. It automatically masks it in a circle because that's the default styling. So here inside of the image, the border radius is already high, but if you don't like that, then you can put it at 0 or maybe even at 8. Yeah, why not put it at 8? Because we're using 8 on the whole website. It doesn't really make a big difference, but you can change these settings over here and then, of course, copy and paste the styling to the other ones. Okay, so now I put in some images, it works. One more thing that I forgot to add is some more spacing between these two items. In my Figma, the spacing is 48, so that's going to be 3 rem, but there's a little bit of space here inside of the typography, so 3 rem here would be too much. We already know that, so let's just put in 3 and then go a little bit down to, for example, 2.5. Because the space in between here, oh, it's already 16. Okay, wow, that's intense. So it's probably going to be 2 then. Okay, let's compare it to our Figma. Yeah, it looks very similar. So yeah, 2 rem I used in here because inside of here, there is already 1 rem. That makes sense. Okay, let's now go to responsiveness to see if everything looks good. I think this section is easy. Yeah, it works really well on all devices, even on a smaller one. That's cool that we don't have to have a 1-column thing for everything on the tablet landscape. Testimonials work fine. This widget is built really well by Elementor, so I like it. And then of course on mobile, you do want to get to a 1-column, but I'm not sure if I like it that the title automatically goes to the middle align. I think over here, left align is also fine. And then on the mobile, yeah, I think left align just works well here. So let's just keep it like that. The only thing I would change maybe on the tablet and the mobile is decrease the spacing a little bit on the inside. So the padding, I would just make it a little bit less. So maybe around 1.5, I think that works great. So let's also paste that to the other ones and then check if it's applied on mobile. Yeah, okay, so that's a little bit smaller on mobile, so the text has a little bit more space. And then over here it sticks to 2. Okay. Yeah, if you're new to Elementor, then it's really beneficial to check out the different widgets. And of course, most of the widgets are in the Pro version. But if you scroll all the way to the bottom here, then they also have general. So don't think that it ends over here because this is where Pro starts. You can just close this one and then see a lot more widgets that you can use. For example, these social icons, which we are going to use soon for the next section. And actually, we're done with this section. This was great. Let's now go to the contact section. The contact section, or as we say in web design, the footer, the foot of the website. It's gonna be a really simple one. Most websites have a footer that looks a little bit like this, just rows of links. But for this website, it's a photography website and we don't need that many links. I mean, social media, that's important so they can look if you have other photos or they can see a little bit more about your personality. And some contact links, it's absolutely enough in my opinion. I think this is a lot cooler than the other boring ones. We can of course also mess around with the opacity here if you want to see more of the photo. Of course, this really depends on your photo. And for this step, I would also recommend to not have a photo with a very light top. Actually, this photo that I took is not so great because we do have a light top. And so I made the blur go really low, like almost to her forehead. Therefore, you don't really see the light up here. So you can do it, but it's better if you have a darker photo like this so it can beautifully blend in with the background. Okay, let's just get started with this one. And in terms of containers, you would think that we would stack these three in a container and then also these three, but this is already a widget in Elementor, and we can actually do that for this one as well to keep things easy. So therefore we just need one container. It's gonna be really easy. Okay, let's click on the plus, the flex box, it's a vertical layout, and let's first add some spacing. It's so small down here. Let's go into the padding and then unlink this, go to rem, and how much space do we actually have until here? It's like 264, but until the top it's 360, and 360 divided by 16 is 22.5. So let's just add a lot of padding here at the top. Let's just do 22, and then at the bottom it's 240, which is 15 rem. So we're also going to add 15 rem here. Okay, that's great. Let's now copy one of our big titles over here. I'm just going to right click, copy, and then paste it in here. And here it simply says, let's talk. Most people just put contact in here. That of course also works. Okay, let's now add a icon row. Sorry, icon list. So we're gonna click on the icon list. So let's change the colors first so we can actually see something. Inside of styling and then text, we can change the color to text. And the typography is title number 4. So let's connect it to title number 4. Okay, that looks great. There's also a very dark icon here in the front. I don't know if you can see it really, but there's also an icon here that's part by default of this widget. So put it on green so you can easily see it. Of course, you can decide to keep icons, but this one already has icons. So I think if you would also add icons over here, that it would be a little bit too much. So therefore, I think it's good if we just delete the icons over here. Just delete it in these different boxes, just like that. And then we have a clean layout. And then you just put it from default to inline. And there you go. Increase the spacing a little bit between the elements. What is the actual spacing that we have used inside of Figma? That's 40. So let's put it on rem and let's put this on 2.5, and there we go. And so I put email, WhatsApp, and book a shoot in here. And here I put the social media. I think these are the kind of platforms where they just check out your stuff. And then here is where they directly contact you. And this one, we're going to link that to an online scheduler. So you can also call it a book a call or a discovery call or whatever you want to do. Of course, change it to however you like. I'm just going to put in my content. Okay. And then we need to link it to somewhere. And so what you can do in Elementor is pretty cool. You can put in an email over here. So for example, test@livingwithpixels.com. And then it doesn't work automatically. You have to do a little trick. And that is add mail to in front of it and then a double point. Or how do you say that in English? You know what I mean. Let me zoom in. This thing over here. Sorry, English is not my first language, so I don't know what it's called in English. I'm just calling it double point. And then it should be able to work. Let's test it. I'm going to click on publish and then preview the page again. Scroll down all the way to the bottom and let's click on email. And as you can see, it automatically opens my email tool and opens an email to that email that I put in here, which is super cool. So you can do that. It also works on mobile. I have to say though, some people don't like this. They want people to just copy and paste the email. Then you should just put the email in here as a text, but then don't put a link in here. You can also leave this link field empty if you want. And in order to link the WhatsApp button, you have to add a link in here. Normally with Elementor Pro, there is an option in here to connect WhatsApp, but you can also do it manually because this is the free version of Elementor. You just need to type this into Google, WhatsApp, how to use click to chat. WhatsApp actually has a custom link feature that you can use. They have a custom link over here that you can copy. And it says, do not add any zeros at the front, brackets or dashes. So let's just test it right now. I'm going to copy it, then just put it in here. And I'm just going to put my own phone number in here to test it. This is a part I'm not going to show you because I don't want my phone number to be public, but I will tell you if it works. Okay, I tested it and it works on a desktop and a mobile. On your mobile, it automatically opens the app, and on a desktop, it will open the web version. And if you have the app installed, then it will also open WhatsApp on the computer. So what I did is that I added the country code. So in this case, +31, because that's the code of my country. And then just my phone number, and it worked. So that's all you have to do for this one. And then for book a call, we're actually going to add this link in the last bonus step so that people can actually book a call. But we don't have that link right now already. So let's just close this for now. And let's add our social media icon. So I'm going to search in here for social, and I'm also going to add it in here. Then the alignment is going to be on the left. Let's check our design again. We've used circles over here. Of course, you can also keep these small rounded corners if you like that. But yeah, I want to stick to the design now. So I'm going to put it on circle. The content here is not correct because it says Facebook over here, and we want LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok, or whatever you want. But you can just open the icon library from here and then search for LinkedIn, and there is the icon of LinkedIn. Some people don't like this version of the LinkedIn icon. They just want only the letters. That's fine. Then you just have to download the LinkedIn icon from somewhere else as an SVG and then just upload it. Here, I don't think you can use PNG. So you have to then use SVG if you don't like the official icon. Okay, let's also change this one. Instagram. And TikTok is not available for some weird reason. So that's one we have to upload manually. So I will show you how to do that. So here I've also included the SVG icon from TikTok. So we're just going to click on upload SVG, and it will ask me if I want to actually do that because some SVGs contain viruses. I know that this one is safe, so I don't have to worry about that. But it always gives you this warning. If you just use one of the big icon websites, then it's fine. So I'm going to upload the SVG and then insert the media. And there you go. The colors are now changed because it's trying to mimic the original colors from the platform, which I don't know if it's actually correct. I just want to go with white. So I'm going to go to style and then change the official color to custom. And then the secondary color, let's change it. In our design, that's actually black. So we're going to put it on dark, and then the primary is going to be white. And there we go. Now it looks a lot like our design. Let's now fix up the spacing a little bit. So in our design, we use 40. So that's 2.5 rem in this container between the items. But again, here we have a little bit more space inside of this one again. So that's a little bit annoying. That's 1 rem already. And in Figma, as you can see, the text actually cuts off under the P. So let's go into our background container by right-clicking or just over here. So I'm just going to put this one at 2 rem because here it has a little bit more spacing on the inside compared to Figma, where the line starts over here. And then for this one, I'm just going to drag this one up a little bit into the title. So I'm going to go to advanced, unlink the margin, then going to rem, and then just dragging this one a little bit up, just like that. -1 works fine. Let's see if it's actually the same. by measuring it again, approximately. So approximately 40 pixels. And this one as well. Yeah, maybe it's a very small difference, but this for me is good enough. Okay, let's add our background image inside of the styling background. And then over here, we're going to upload that image, footer photo. And there we go. Now we need to change these settings, position, center, display size. We're going to put it on cover. And now let's make it a lot darker by going to background overlay and then putting it on gradient again. Again, we're going to use a crazy color so we can see what we're doing like that. Let's put it on 100% opacity or like almost 100%. Okay, now we need to change the location because the blur, I think, starts from around here and it goes up to here. So let's change this location a little bit. I think around this is fine. And now let's put this one on our pure black. This one as well, but this one we're going to decrease the opacity to whatever value feels good for our image. Again, depending on the image you use. So what about this? I think that looks okay. Then put the opacity back at 100. And now that looks very similar to our Figma design. And now we just need to drag this section up, but by how much? If we go into the container settings and we take a look at the padding, we see there's a difference of 7 rem from the top and the bottom. So why not drag this one 7 rem to the top by unlinking this one, going to rem, and then putting some negative -7 on the top, which drags it up. But now this one is not on top, so we need to fix that again by going inside of here, advanced, and then adding some Z index again. Let's put it on 2, see if it works. Yes, it works. So now the image, as you can see, is already part of the background of the testimonials. That looks really good. Okay, what else? Oh, the icon alignment over here, the space between the icons in my design is a lot more. It's actually 20. So inside of the social icons, you have some settings. It's going to be 16 pixels, so that's exactly going to be 1 rem. And also for the icon size, what is the icon size that we use inside of Figma? It's around 52. Okay, so let's just go to rem over here as well, and then just put 3 in here. Oh, that doesn't work. Oh, I made a mistake. I selected the whole circle, not just the icon. It's a little bit hard to measure in my Figma because I converted it to something flat. So for now, I'm just going to use my eyes to something that I like. I think 1.5 rem looks fine. Maybe a little bit bigger. It's quite cool, right, to have these icons a little bit bigger. Yeah, okay. Let's add a little bit of animation. Icon hover, we can just put this one on. Grow always works. It's pretty cool. Which one also looks good always is Bob. I like it. It goes up. We already have that at the top as well. So we can do that. We can also, by the way, do that for our links. So right now, if we go into text and then into hover, we can, for example, also make our text white so that when you hover, the text becomes white. Small detail, but nice. Okay, let's check responsiveness. Let's first go to laptop. Yeah, that looks perfect. The text is perfectly aligned to the left because we set up that container width in the beginning. Now the text should become a little bit smaller slowly. Yeah, this all looks good. I am very happy with this. Okay, maybe the footer is a little bit too big on the mobile. What do you think? And also over here, am I happy with this text? Maybe not. Maybe the spacing between the rows should be a little bit more. Let's decrease the space between over here. Then they can be on one row. But yeah, it depends on how many links you have. This is a little bit challenging. So in this situation, I would go into the text tool and then just unlink it. I know, not perfect, but increase the line height over here to something more. So for example, 140%. So that there is a little bit more space, or even 150. Yes, I know I'm not using the global settings anymore, but yeah, sometimes you're running into limitations, and when you have more links, it should just look good. So I think this works fine. And maybe just decrease the height a little bit of this whole container on mobile, So let's right click on the container and let's change the padding values in here. So we had 1522, unlink it. Let's do 10 and then 15. How does that look? I think it looks a little bit better, but I don't know if I like it that the text is exactly on top of her. So what if we just put 5 here, just at the bottom, and then just more at the top, like 20. Then the photo has a little bit more space, and maybe even more. Yeah, I think that works fine on mobile. And on tablet, this is just fine because there's more space for the photo. And again, this really depends on your photo. Okay, let's see if everything looks good. Let's check our final result on the front end. Okay. Looking all good. There we go. Beautiful. I love how this design turned out. Yeah, that works very well. This is great. Okay, finishing touches now. Let's see where we can add a little bit more animation because we mainly have animations here at the top, but maybe we can add a little bit more. I don't want to animate all of these photos. They already have this hover effect. The pricing, I don't know if you should do something with that too much. Maybe the reviews, maybe we can animate them in from the bottom. I think that would be pretty cool. So let's click on one of the reviews, go to motion effects, entrance animation. Let's do fade in up. Yeah, I think this is pretty cool because once you start scrolling, they will animate up when they get into the viewport. So let's just try this one already. I'm just gonna copy and paste the style to the other ones to see if that works. Okay, publish it and go to the front end. There we go. Oh, let's try it from the top, of course. Always check your animations from the top. Okay, this looks fine. This also looks fine. And then now they should start coming in. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's something that I like. Not too much, not too little. At least there's something going on here. Let's do one more very important thing, and that's putting the website live. Because I don't know if you remember, but we put the page on private before. So if you click on the name over here, you will go back to your WordPress dashboard. You can click on pages, and now the homepage is private. So just make sure that this one is not private anymore. And I think we already set up the homepage as the homepage. We did that. If you haven't done that, go to reading over here and make sure that this homepage is on home so that it actually views the homepage as home. And you can check that by just copying your domain name, then opening a new tab in incognito with Command Shift N, or I think on Windows it's the same, Control Shift N. And then open it like that and see if your website works, if it's live. Yes, that works pretty well. Oh, now my internet is a little bit slow, but it does work, so that's great. And what else? Oh yeah, the contact button. We didn't link the contact button yet to the contact section. So let's also do that before we move on. What we have to do is go to our contact button over here and then link it to #contact. It's not so easy. We have to do one more thing. We have to say to the bottom section, so the footer, that this one is actually the contact one, so that the button knows that it should link to this one. And we can do that in advance, CSS ID, and just call this one contact. And now the button here at the top should automatically link or scroll down to the bottom. Maybe it doesn't work in the editor. Let's try it on the front end. So refresh it and then click on the contact button. And there you go. It automatically scrolls to the footer, which is great. Of course, you can also choose to just automatically open an email here. But yeah, I think it's nice if you send them to the footer so they can decide what to click on. So I don't know about you, but I am really happy with the end result. I think we made something really cool. There are animations, it looks modern, there's some interaction going on. It's very clear, it works on all devices, and it just works for a photographer or videographer. Okay, that was it for the main steps, but I think many of you want to know how you can set up your scheduling call button to something else. So let's go to the bonus step. In this bonus step, I want to show you how you can schedule calls that look something like this. where a client can book a call with you, see the dates that you're available, and then you can connect it all to your Google Calendar. And before I show you my solution, I have to say though that Google themselves now also have an online scheduler, but it is very limited in what you can do. And therefore, I recommend a tool that I've fallen in love with called Fillout. So if you click on the last link in the resources, you will go to this website. And Fillout started out as a forms platform, but now it has extended to many other things. So you can easily create forms in the same way as you can do with Google Forms or Typeform. But now they also have scheduling, as you can see right here. It looks beautiful, which is not always the case with Google products. That looks a little bit simple. I think this looks absolutely beautiful. And there are so many more features which I would love to get into, but we're not going to do that in this video. But I just want to show you that many features in here are free forever with $0. Of course, they have premium plans, but what they offer for free is amazing. It's the same thing with Elementor. Look at what we were able to do with the free version of Elementor. It's amazing. You can just click on get started and then make your account in here. I already did that, so I'm gonna switch to the login screen and then sign in with my Google. And then once you're logged in, you will see something like this. Here you can see all of your forms. I already have my client questionnaire response in here. And then over here you will see scheduling. So I'm gonna click on get started and then we're gonna sign in with Google. I'm using the same Google account again. And then you can choose one of these options. For client meetings, it's almost always one-on-one. And then you can give your meeting a name. For example, client discovery meeting. And you can even set up a subdomain, which is really cool. For example, I'm just gonna put in my own name. So then it will be renodeboer.fillout.com. Let's see if that one is still available. Yes, it's still available. That's really cool. And then / it will be client discovery meeting. The duration, often 60 minutes is better. And then you can add a meeting location, which is gonna be Google Meet. But you can also put it on in person and even use Zoom or Teams if you prefer that. Okay, then click on create. And then this is a preview of what it will look like. You can also click on the preview button over here, and then it will show it to you in an even wider window. There is a Fillout button over here with some advertisement. That's in the free version. If you want to hide that, then of course you will have to upgrade to one of their pro plans. But that's a price I am willing to pay to stay on the free version. For now, I just want to show you some of the settings. So here on the left, you can set up the availability. And then here in working hours, you can click on edit. And here you can set it up for the week. So in my case, I only like to meet with clients on Thursday because the rest of the week I have for my other businesses. This timing is fine. Right now I am in this time zone because I'm in Bali. But once I go back to Europe, then of course I have to change my time zone to a different city. Okay, so that's one thing that's important because I had it already in the past that a client booked a meeting and then I forgot to change my time zone and then it was in the middle of the night. So that's not great. You can click on update availability and then people will only see that it's available on these specific dates. Great. You can also limit the amount of meetings you want in a day. So if it's too much for you, you can just say 2 meetings per day, that's enough. And at least 1 hour after the meeting, I want a break to do a power nap. Okay. You can also set up reminder emails. There's so many more features here than the basic features of Google. And then I also want to show you the theme settings over here. So when you click that, you can set up some different colors. Right now it's the white version, but our website is black. So why not continue in the black theme and just stick to those colors? Unfortunately, I haven't found a feature to exactly pick the color that I want, but our website is black and white anyways. So I think we can just go for something simple like this, orange or purple. Oh, this one is cool with a rainbow. Oh, I also really like this one. Okay, I think I'm gonna stick to this one. And then there are a few more tabs over here. For example, integrate. We have now automatically integrated it with Google Calendar. So the scheduled meeting will automatically be synced with our calendar, and you can even connect it with more tools. For example, Google Sheets, so that data will automatically be sent to that. If you use Notion, I love Notion. You can set notifications to your Slack. It is so cool what you can do with all of this. But this tutorial is already long enough, so let's just go back and click on publish. And now we should get a link and some confetti. Great, here's a copy link, and we need that link because now we need to go back to Elementor, to our page, and then we need to put it on the different places where we want that. So let's first, of course, put it on book a call. We're going to go to content and then over here, and I'm going to paste the link in here, but make sure to also open the link option and make sure to open it in a new window. I haven't done that for WhatsApp and email because these are different applications anyways. And so it will automatically open a new window because it's not in the browser. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to save it like this, then go back to our final page, refresh, scroll all the way down. And if I then click on book a call, you will see that it will generate an online calendar which only shows the availability we have, and it automatically syncs with our Google Calendar based on the time zone. How cool is this, guys? And now the last thing we have to do is to decide where we want to link these buttons to. To make things easy, I'm just also going to make sure that they scroll down to the contact section. But of course, you can also put the booking link in here, or just even change this contact text to book a meeting and then directly open the Google Calendar links. But then you just have to put a different link in here. It's all up to you. But I think this is fine. Everybody just scrolls over here and then decides what they want to do, because not everybody wants to book a call. Okay, let's click on publish. And now we are done. It looks absolutely amazing. Great. So now we're done and your website is live. But for the people that have used InstaWP to host their website, your website will expire in 7 days. And of course, you can use their platform. It is great. I love it. I actually have a paid account, which is under a different name. The pricing is not too crazy. So you can absolutely do this if you like their platform, but this is a paid feature. And so if you want to download the website so you can use it later, you have to go back to WordPress. And you do that by installing a plugin. So go back to your WordPress dashboard, go to add a new plugin, and then over here, search for migration, because you can use a migration plugin to download your website. This is the most popular one on WordPress. It's very easy. You just install it, activate it, and then you have this new option over here. You simply click export. You export the site to a file, which will then convert it into a zip. This website is 111 megabytes, a beautiful number. And when you click it, it will just download it on your computer. So at least your work is not lost. And then the next time, if you want to upload it somewhere where you have WordPress, then you simply go to import and then you import that file that you just downloaded. And then you have your website back. Pretty cool, right? And I don't know about you, but I am pretty proud. This is a very cool result. And remember, we all did this with free software. So I really hope that this project gave you some confidence in using Elementor. But like I said in the beginning of the video, the free version has some limitations. Actually, a lot of limitations if you start to use Elementor more. Just the fact that we don't have a menu here at the top, that is a big deal for bigger websites. And so if you're interested in Elementor, I mean, I guess you are because you're still here at the end of the project, then I recommend you to check out the page that I linked over here again, because over here, I put some more information here on what the pro version of Elementor gives you. For example, dynamic content is essential if you want to have something like a blog or maybe even a project section on your website. I mean, right now, we just have a gallery of photos, But let's say that you want to link to separate pages that show more about a project. Then you need dynamic content and you need a menu to link to those different pages. And like you have seen, there are a lot more widgets. Some of them are actually really cool. They have animations built in as well. So there's a lot more to explore. And at this point in the video, I do want to ask you for a favor, because you have been watching me teaching you. So if you got some value out of it and you want to purchase Elementor Pro, then I want to ask you if you can use the link on this page. So here on this page, you can buy it. Make sure that the Elementor hosting is not selected. Elementor Pro is just a plugin. You don't need their hosting because we already have Hostinger, which is another company that provides hosting. So if you would buy from Elementor Hosting, then you have to start over again. You don't want that. We already have hosting and our website with Elementor. We just want to upgrade to the Pro version. I mean, let's say that you want that. So then you need this tab. You can pick one of these plans for one website with all the features. It's going to be the Advanced Solo. You might see a different price based on your location. I am personally on the Expert plan. I have the 1000 website license package because I do use this package for client websites as well, and then I charge my clients monthly. That's out of the scope of this video. This is just a beginner video, but I do want to point it out here. If you want to buy it, then please make sure to use my link. And then lastly, I also want to tell you that I do offer courses. So if you really like Elementor and you want to really learn more, then you can go to livingwithpixels.com and scroll down, and then over here you see the courses. I have a course on Elementor Pro. It's mainly focused on workflow. It's not just everything you can learn about Elementor Pro. In this course, I focus on an efficient workflow so that you don't waste any time. I think that's more valuable than just teaching you all of the widgets that are available. So just to set up expectations, you can check out the information about this course on this page. And I will also put a link in the description. So yeah, we're finally at the end now. I hope you enjoyed it. Please help each other in the comment section if you run into a problem. I cannot respond to everyone, but sometimes I do respond. Subscribe if you want more videos like this, obviously, and give the video a like if you liked it. Okay, that's it. Thank you for watching, and hopefully until the next one.